What do you get when you cross a know-it-all newspaper columnist with an awkward, unsophisticated everyman?
Yeah. Well, I'm just not sure about that right now.
Welcome to Couch and the Roo.
Welcome to Couch and the Roo, presented as always by Pure Options Craft Cannabis. If there has ever been a day in this world for Pure Options, this is it. I hope it helped you get through this weekend. Pure Options is here for every disappointment in your life, for every joy in your life, to make the day smoother, to make the good times better, to make the bad times less rough. Go to pureoptions.com, join their Pure Perks loyalty program, download their app, and check out their locations. Lansing, Mount Pleasant, Detroit, Muskegon, all over the state of Michigan with great deals, great service, great quality, pureoptions.com. And our Monday afternoon show, brought to you by our friends at Muskox Quality Flannels. If there has ever been a day for a muskox, this is it. This might be a double muskox day. On a day like this, when it's below 6, I like to say that anything else is uncivilized. Muskox flannel makes you look good, feel good, and brave these conditions. It is rough, but Muskox brings you comfort, and it's quality. And when everybody else is looking frigid, you are comfortable in a Muskox flannel. Go muskox.com, and you can use the promo code FIXITINPOST, all one word, FIXITINPOST, for Couch and the Rube listeners to get $15 off their Muskox flannel purchase at gomuskox.com. Jason, how you doing, brother?
No? What do you want?
I'm just glad we're here.
I know. Yeah, Pure Options did help tremendously yesterday. Today, I could have used a lot more, but I had to get here and do a show and everything. So it did do the trick yesterday.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
It was great for Ford. It helped me through my weekend.
I'm glad it helped you.
Yeah.
We were all concerned about Graham.
Yeah, a lot of people. There's people not so happy with me.
I did skim through the Twitter questions. It is pretty fun.
Yeah, it's going to be a good show.
And you deserve it, I think.
Yeah, well, of course, we'll dig into your hot takes in a little bit. We'll begin with ours naturally. Sir, I think a lot of people are wondering about your state of mind, your state of being, so let's begin with you.
Yeah, I mean, obviously going to the game and watching Washington, I mean, first of all, give them credit. They came in and absolutely came with a game plan and kicked our ass. But I was just absolutely one of the most devastating things. You sit there and had great seats. I mean, some of the best seats ever in the club, 200. The bathroom was was closer than at my house. It was unbelievable. You could turn around, you could just grab a Coke Zero and a water. So for all of that, and we were there like 3 hours before the game. Jake Hawkins was there. I was going to meet up with him, and it just got all. It's more of a devastation. If it was like a worst-case scenario, if there was a nightmare you were going to have the night before that game, that's the scenario that played out. The Jared Goff playing terribly, a Meek going down after the second play. I mean, that was devastating. I think people are kind of overlooking that. I was just more surprised by the reaction like after the game. Like people were ready to pack their Lion stuff up, or if they're having a child, they were going to not get them any, like she hands going nuts and all this. Like part of me understands that. But what I don't understand is like after the devastation, I'm still going, we still have Brad Holmes. We still have Dan Campbell. I think, Ben Johnson, I still think there's a great possibility he comes back. I think Glenn takes a job and goes elsewhere. But if Ben Johnson doesn't want to take that Raiders job, I think he obviously comes back. We pay him and maybe we could sign him to a 2 to 3 year deal. I don't know. I'm just being optimistic, but I feel the future is great. It's bright. It sucks winning 15 games and losing that way against Washington. I mean, everything you can talk about. Was the bye week, was it a hindrance? I mean, I just don't know how that defense can play so well against the Minnesota Vikings. Was it the bye week that hurt? I thought everything was going our way. And I can understand the fans' frustration of like, same old Lions, because that was a same old Lions loss. Like Dan Campbell said, they didn't even bring the B game. I could not fathom with injuries. We want to blame injuries and all that. I understand that. But to sit there and those guys were Washington was gashing us 8 yards of play. And you're sitting there on defense and you're like standing up and I'm like losing my voice and yelling. They're giving up 8 yards of play and it's just hard to keep doing that. So, listen, obviously I'm distraught. I could barely watch the games yesterday. I had to force myself to bet yesterday because I just want them to cancel the Super Bowl. That's my mentality right now. And it's because we have to wait 9 months, right? We have the draft in April, but it's just like the finality of it, driving home. Like I stayed at my friend Jordan's house. The next morning I left at like 7:30. I honestly was talking to myself for like an hour. Just talking to myself.
What were you saying?
Just, reassuring myself everything's going to be all right. I don't know. It was just an absolutely long night. I didn't get any sleep, So, to answer your question, I'm distraught. I'm not as distraught, to be honest, as last year.
Yeah.
In the NFC Championship game, obviously different circumstances, but I felt we had a really good shot last year. But this year, the way it was set up so perfectly, I think it hurts even more.
So it was, to me, it was set up perfectly, and yet it wasn't. And I agree with you. Last year was worse in hindsight because they were, in the NFC Championship game.
I don't know. You could talk me out of that. 15-2, right? It was a great.
But 15
we overlooked
and 2,
that.
15-2, but. Again, we all knew this defense had some holes at this point. They were just beat up. Yeah.
After that Minnesota game. I know everybody after the fact is telling me that this defense, they knew the defense wouldn't come through.
I didn't know.
After that Minnesota game, everybody was shocked Aaron Glenn was getting every single job.
Yeah.
That defense that played on Saturday night was not the defense against Minnesota. So if you watch our defense against Minnesota coupled with a bye week, and your takeaway was we're going to have a problem against Washington, I don't know if I can believe you. I'm sorry.
I thought they were going to have a problem at some point. I didn't think they were going to lose to Washington.
Losing a meek hurt.
If anything,
right off the bat.
If anything, I lost enough teasers on the Lions. I might, if these guys are lucky, they're not playing next week, or I have to spite bet against them. It's but
a lot of money lost.
It was, it's disheartening, but in some ways.
But are people really giving up? You're not going to jump on this ride? Like, I love Dan Campbell. I love Brad Holmes. I love the guys. I love the environment. I love the culture of the team. For people to say, like, our window's closing, I just trust Brad Holmes with everything I have. And it's really tough to say that about any general manager in my whole lifetime, to say that I absolutely trust Brad Holmes to get back and get these guys back in this again. So
there's a lot of negative Nancy's out there, and I am actually not one of them. Believe it or not, on this line.
You're just
team.
Repetitive Twitter guy.
Well, that's who I am. Yeah, we're getting one-trick pony, mid-sized market.
You're one tweeting motherfucker, I tell you. For a guy that hates Twitter
limited
and
talent.
Deletes it off his phone,
yep.
I tell you what, you're one tweeting MFer, but yeah. No, I don't understand. I understand being depressed and bummed and all that, but when you get all of that out, in the end you go, listen, but next year, I don't know. It's just, I don't know how you talk yourself out of it, but I'm talking myself out of it, and we won 15 games this year. It was really, really impressive. It was a great season. Is it all for naught? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I still can look back at it, and we're a great team. And the thing like the Chiefs are doing, the thing like the Patriots are doing, like, I don't know why we can't build a culture like that. The players love coming here. Free agents love coming here. So I just think that we can build something that's sustainable. Now, will we win a Super Bowl every, I don't know. Will we compete for one? Will we miss the playoffs? I don't think so.
So
the future's bright here. I just don't know why people are that depressed in that way.
A couple things. One, I think they didn't lose this game because of the defense entirely.
No.
In fact,
Jared Goff.
The defense was really bad, but they would have won anyway had they coached a different game and had Jared Goff played a different game.
Right.
And so that to have those two things that have been really good all year sort of choke in this setting, and I think feel like they had to make up for that early fumble. Like if they had gone up 14-3, they were going to win that game going away, I think. And then when it didn't happen, watching this team get away from what it did early in the year. Early in the year when they weren't running the ball enough, same issue in this game, right? They didn't. They had the best player on the field in Gibbs, and didn't utilize him enough. No. And threw the ball on, what was that, 3rd and 1 with Goff when he fumbled or whatever. Like there were lots of things. I think that the disheartening thing for people now is that there is a fear, and there always has been, no matter how many white people chant Jared Goff's name.
It's just white people now?
It's a cultural thing, man.
Everybody, get the fuck out.
The people who chant Jared Goff are the same people who run 5Ks and stop every mile for a beer. Same people. All have beards. Same deal. They're Detroit City FC fans. It's all the same people.
There's no one of color chanting Jared Goff at all, huh?
Very few.
Just white guys, just those white guys?
Very few.
Oh, fuck.
Because it's a weird chant. It's a good chant at Lions games.
Oh, when we were winning and he was balling out, it was a great chant. What is this shit? What is this mentality?
Hold on. I'm not being it. But the concern is, this was always the fear, right? Is that Jared Goff has this moment in the game, and it looked like he was trying to do too much. Mm-hmm. He has the fumble, he has the pick six, and then he has the end zone interception. Like, he was really bad. Let's be honest. The thing is, in some ways, and I'm just trying to look at this, any bright side you can find, because it does suck. Look, they had home field advantage. They had the bye week. They played great against Minnesota. They had a team they were better than. They should have at least gotten to the next round. If they had gotten to the next round and because of their injuries and situation had lost to a really good Eagles team, you could deal with that. It would feel like, well, they just didn't have it. In some ways, though, there are some realities that were brought to the forefront that are good to know. Like, you've got to really set Jared Goff up to make sure he doesn't have this game before. He's got to talk through some stuff himself. He's got to make sure, if he winds up in this situation again, that he doesn't try to do too much, because that's when he's not very good. They got to make sure this coaching staff made a number of blunders. Offensively, it was a poorly called game. It really was at times. And the Jamison Williams, when you're down,
the pass was stupid.
10 points with 12 minutes to go. What are you doing? There's no need for that right then. No need for that, because the receivers are going to make that mistake. I don't put that on. Those guys want to make that play. They've been practicing it all week. They're like, I want to make this play. Should he throw it away? Yeah, a quarterback would throw it away. But you put the ball in a 23-year-old receiver's hands.
But in that spot. Yeah, and I just, and there's two questions for Dan Campbell. One is the usage of David Montgomery. I know it was a great story, him coming back and, getting a third, fourth opinion so he could play. But when you have Gibbs running that way, I just don't know how you take him out. Montgomery did fight through a couple break tackles and stuff, but Gibbs was gashing those guys.
Best running back and the best player on the field.
And not using the timeout on the fourth down because they're gold when everybody and their brother's telling you. I mean, like, Dan, I just need to answer for that. Obviously, there's no hot seat or you want him fired, but it's just like a couple of those things to be let down in that situation, especially coming off a bye, and it just seems like your guys weren't prepared. And Jared Goff, I mean, he made them, like I said, we talk about the Texans game with 5 interceptions, a game they still won. I think those deficiencies with Goff can be made up, but in a game like that, you can't do that many, right? I understand where Goff takes shit for that, but I think collectively as a team, like Dan Campbell said, we didn't even bring our B game. So to blame one certain section of guys, I think it just collectively, it was all shit.
Yeah, you can't. Now, here's the thing. The Jared Goff situation, like, there's no point in saying, well, they need to, Jared Goff's never going to do it or they can't do it. Jared Goff is their quarterback for the foreseeable future, and we've seen him do a lot of things at a pretty high level. Mm-hmm. So there's no point, like, for the next 2 years, like, I look at their window, and people are, I don't think their window is close to over. And it might not be for a long time. Brad Holmes has shown to this point that he's really good. There's an obvious window that's at least 2 years. It's at least 2 years. Sure. Because, and this is the tweet that got people upset, and I don't really understand why. I mean, I do understand the way it was phrased. People think because decisions will get hard. Because within 2 years, Laporta, Jamison Williams, Jahmyr Gibbs, Aiden Hutchinson, like, those are massive contracts that are guys who are really going to get paid, that are difference makers on your franchise. And you've got 2 more years with those guys, for the most part, relatively cheap. And so don't worry about that. Now, and the reason it's going to sort itself out is this, in some ways, is if in 2 years, for the next 2 years, if you get in the playoffs next year and Jared Goff has another game like that where it's clear that he can't get it done in these settings, and it becomes more clear that he has a ceiling. And I don't think that's proven at this point. I think he was trying to do too much, and there was a lot working against them, and he had a bad game. But if you get to that point, in 2 years, it will be his salary that they'll be paying those guys with. They'll get rid of him in 2 years. And they will be trying to find a cheap quarterback to do it with. But that's down the road. You got 2 years, I think, with a pretty young roster, with an up-and-coming roster, with draft picks being added, with getting guys healthy. And yeah, there will be some injuries next year, and there will be all that. But you have 2 more years, I think, to take a run at this level with these guys. And so don't worry about anything beyond that. In football, it's hard. Yeah, it's hard to think about. I mean, I remember I used to hate when I'd see things about Barry Sanders' birthday when I was a kid because I didn't want him to get older. The idea that Jahmyr Gibbs may be that special running back who you do want to pay a little bit more than other running backs. Right. Now, and you have to have defensive ends. You got a Hutchinson. Tight ends though. I'll be honest. If you're looking at all those guys, who are you not going to pay? Look how they replaced their last good tight end with Laporta. You might have to do that. And some of these are going to be hard.
Laporta's way better than Hawkinson.
I know, but I'm just saying there are going to be tough decisions eventually. Don't worry about those now. If you were to tell any Lions fan at any point in their history before these last 2 years that for 2 more years you get this roster with this opportunity and, maybe not Ben Johnson, but what the fuck did he do for you this weekend? I'm not saying he's not really quality. He's not important and they don't have to find the right coordinator. But
there'd be a lot of teams that would fire their head coaches for Ben Johnson right now.
That's true. But a lot of people would gladly take this situation. And at any point in Lions history, we would rather have the next 2 years of Lions football than anything that we watched. And so that, to me, you got to get yourself out of the doom and gloom. I do not think they were going to win it this year anyway. The way they lost it stinks. Did they have a chance because they were home? Could have they beaten the Eagles on the right day? Absolutely. Could have they won a Super Bowl game against a Kansas City team that's deficient on offense? I believe so. A lot of things could have gone right, and they could have gotten it done, and that stinks. But this was not because of the injuries, because of what that defense had become, and outside of that Minnesota game, this was not likely to be that year. And
after going 15-2.
After going 15-2, because you beat a
lot
of
with a bye week and resting up.
You beat a lot of teams in there that had deficiencies where you face less and less deficiencies. You didn't beat Kansas City with this defense late in the year. You didn't beat Philadelphia with this defense late in the year. And I'm not saying this is not capable of it. I'm just saying it was unlikely to happen.
Yeah, and I just think that, especially in the second half, it just field goal, Washington played well, and we were playing well, blah, blah, blah. I mean, we just stunk on ice, and they handed it to us. And I think that is the most devastating part after the whole season and going to these games. And, I just can understand what people are saying, but except for I'm done. My kids aren't going to wear Lions shit. I don't want them to raise a loser.
Ridiculous.
It's just all right, anyway.
I do think this offseason that they need to begin to – they need to get a new backup quarterback. When you replace your backup quarterback with a guy who was coaching high school football, and then that's the guy you play in a pinch.
I went to the bathroom, and I came back, and Teddy Bridgewater was in the fucking game. And I'm looking at Jordan. I'm like, what is happening? He's looking at me. He goes, dude, Goff just went in. And I'm like, oh, God.
I live bet the heck out of the Commanders in that moment. I was like, I don't know what happened, but okay.
But can we talk about Hendon Hooker for a second? Is he not ready? I mean, a guy, Teddy Bridgewater,
you got it.
He's pretty much playing on half a leg or whatever, after that crazy injury he had. I know it's great at him as a third stringer, but.
Because what you don't want to happen next year, and this is why you got to prepare yourself better than this. I understand that almost any team loses their starting quarterback, their season's in big trouble.
Right.
But you also don't want a situation where.
But Teddy Bridgewater's not the future.
No, and you're right. Say you do have a year where you have great health and you have some luck in that stamp, and the only non-luck you have is like a 4-week injury to Jared Goff. You don't want to be in a situation where that gets ruined because you haven't prepared yourself better. And you do want to go get a guy, I think. You're not spending a first-round pick on this. There's that sort of quarterback. It may not be a guy as the future, but you do want to get a younger guy that you can develop, and that if you turn out to like that person, and if Goff has these sort of issues for the next couple years, when you've got to make some financial decisions, you're able to do that. I think you want to just set yourself up long-term, and in somewhere in this draft.
And how bad was that concussion, to be honest with you? I know that he was evaluated because he got fucking rocked. Yeah. So, I mean, I as much as I blame Jared Goff for that loss for sure, but I don't think it was solely on him, that whole loss, right? Yeah. And I just think the future is bright with Jared Goff, unless you can tell me another option or a quarterback that you would have that's available. I don't think there is one.
No, and you see it in other games. You see it now. Granted, they were playing indoors and others were outdoors in tougher weather, but you see what the fumbles and the mishaps that Lamar Jackson had and Matthew Stafford had, and granted that was in snow, and I understand that, but it is really hard to get to the Super Bowl. It's really hard to play perfect in these situations, and Jared Goff had a really bad game.
Well, you didn't even have to play perfect against Washington. Well, that's why it was the bummer.
That's the conversation that he needs to have with himself, with his therapist, and with the coaching staff in the offseason. Yeah. He needs to remind himself, because if Jared Goff had just not tried to do too much, if he just doesn't throw the pick six, if he just doesn't throw, but you're
going to get to a playoff game and not be yourself?
No,
that's
be yourself. Being yourself is not trying to do too much. When he tries to do too much, he's never good. He was trying.
Which
to do
play
too
do
much.
you think he tried to do too much though? I mean,
The overthrow on the pick six.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe the play on the one where he threw the interception in the end zone.
Our O-line was so bad.
It wasn't great.
It was so bad and kind of running for his life. And when you have him, I mean, I think it's just more than Goff. We have to be perfect on the offensive line to keep Goff clean and not have him run around. He's terrible when he has to run around, but when he can sit there and has time, he can dissect anybody's defense.
And that takes a pretty healthy team. And that ultimately will be the test of the next 2 years. It's not just Goff has to play well. It has to be enough. All
we're gonna do is pay attention to injuries like every game.
It sucks, but it has to be enough in the next 2 years.
We need load management in the NFL.
You can't
not
make
the NBA.
You can't make the money he's making and it not be enough. And so eventually it has to be enough.
But is he really making crazy? I mean, compared to the quarterbacks in the league?
No, but the other way to do it is with a rookie quarterback. When they're making nothing and you build around that. And
I would love to do that. It's you make it sound easy to do.
It's not easy to do. And to the Lions' point, they have not had that kind of draft pick with that kind of quarterback available. To be fair to them. All right, let's talk. We'll get back to the Lions. Trust me.
I'm not talking about Michigan.
Let's talk some better stuff for our listeners.
Thanks, Tom. I want to shout out Tom Izzo. Thank you so much, Tom, for coming through with a W, man. Thank you. I was like, honestly, when Kohler had a turnover, I'm just like, I saw Jared Goff pick six, and I was like, am I going to be able to watch this game? I don't know if I'm going to be able to handle this game. But thank you, Tom.
Yeah, it was a really important win for MSU basketball against Illinois, and I'll tell you why. It's not because they're better than Illinois. We don't know that yet, and frankly, they don't have to be. They don't have to be better than Illinois to win the Big Ten, because part of winning the Big Ten is about having a higher floor, so you don't lose at home to USC. Or you don't lose at Penn State like Purdue did. Like if Michigan State avoids those landmines all year and wins their home games, they're going to win the Big Ten. And that's part of it. Part of the grind is not about just having the highest ceiling, but they have a high enough ceiling. That's why yesterday was important. And it was as important as the North Carolina game that they won earlier this year for the same reason. You can tell it blew confidence into them in terms of what they're capable of. They needed, and this game, because the schedule set up the way it did, and they hadn't played anybody they had, beaten decent teams, and they'd done so on the road, and they'd had some good results and good performances, but they needed to see it, and it had been so long, and I think that's why they started the way they did. You could just see it in their eyes. They made the game bigger than it was. It was a weird start for them, and then they figured it out, and they figured out one bad matchup they had on that Will Riley freshman who was just killing Jace Richardson because he's 6'8" and Richardson's 6'3". And
I know I had to watch Illinois all year, and I'm like, is this kid a stud or what's going on here?
I understand based on the scouting report why they didn't see it coming. I also think that they should have switched off a little bit earlier and then not gone back to it. But nonetheless, they figured it out.
But what do you think that is? Why don't they? You just think like, oh, he's not going to keep doing this, right?
Right. He's had 5 and 7 points in the last 5 games, no more than that. Like you're playing a smaller lineup. You want to play 3 guards, and so when you do that, somebody's going to have a matchup that's a little tricky athletically, and so that was why they tried to do it. But it was just important because you could tell in the locker room afterwards that Michigan State's players really believe in themselves. They believe in what they can be, and you need games that make you believe in yourself and make the next stretch of games more fun. Like if they lose that game to Illinois, then you go to Madison Square Garden, you play a Rutgers team that that's been a house of horrors, but there's only so much you can gain from that. You can't gain much. You play Minnesota at home next week. Those sort of things. Now those games, when you're 7-0 and you're trying to chip away, as Holloman said, you're the front runner, and you've proven that you can play at the level of probably the most talented team in the Big Ten in Illinois. That propels you. It'll make Saturday, this weekend, more fun. You could tell it the way Izzo spoke. He was giving them all this day the Monday off, and they're going to watch the national championship game together at night, and like it's a whole. The vibes are good, and the vibes when you're chipping away and the grind are good, and they've got a chance to separate themselves a little before it really gets tricky, and they're going to lose some games. But when you look at the schedule of everybody else, they have a chance. I think if you had to pick a team that's the favorite, that's in the driver's seat right now, based on who plays who where and who's 7-0 right now, and who doesn't have a loss against a lesser team, or 3 losses like Illinois does now, you would say it's Michigan State. And, that's also important because I think this is a program, even though they have some new pieces as well, but guys like Jaden Akins, who have been part of a lot of years where they were kind of stuck in the middle, trying to emerge, trying to get that that really are hungry to be at the top. And for Izzo, who ended last season by saying he was going to die trying to get his program back, this would be a really meaningful Big Ten title. Because when you have 4 straight years of 13 losses and you're still making the tournament, but you're not the program you were, and you're pushing 70, like there's a real question whether you ever get back. And does this mean they're going to have a run like they did for more than a decade in the 2010s and all that? It doesn't. It doesn't guarantee anything. But it shows they're capable of getting it back. It shows that he's capable of getting it back. It shows that there have been some adjustments at center, at point guard, on the coaching staff. And he's done a really good job. That whole staff has done a really good job of figuring out matchups and how to play to them and how to utilize guys.
Well, when you have that many guys that can play those minutes, it's really easy with matchups, right?
Well, it's easier, but you got
not matchup proof, but not yet.
You got to recognize it early, and guys have to be willing to deal with the idea that they're only going to play. There's some minutes they're going to play more than others. I mean, Zapala yesterday is a great example. This was a tough matchup for him, and he was really struggling in it. And then he comes back in the middle of the second half and has like 4 points and 4 rebounds in a few minutes. Maybe those were all in one batch, but he had a really consequential stretch. And that's what you're getting. Everybody comes in and Trey Holloman's best 2 games this year, North Carolina, Illinois. Like there's a veteran when he needs to be at his best has been really good for them. Like just the number of things they have. And
not having to put so much pressure on Jace Richardson, who I think is the best player on the team, right? Like when he has a game like he did yesterday for guys to pick him up.
This is only his second bad game, really. It was Ohio State in this one.
But I'm saying if you can have a guy like that,
absolutely.
And, other teams that Izzo's had, he would be the main focal point if he has a game like that. They lose games like this. I was more impressed by the lack, under 10 turnovers because it was kind of, you look at the box score, it was an ugly game that Michigan State won. Again, games we talk about like last year, years prior, that these are games that they would lose. And to come out with a win like that by 2, that was impressive, man.
And you think about a guy like Jaden Akins. I think one of the things we sort of predicted before the season is there was a danger that he would be the guy who kind of became the guy that frustrated fans all year, right? And early on, you could see why. Because he was supposed to elevate himself into this role and whether he could be the go-to guy. And he is, because of the way the team's built, he's had less of that on him, and yet he's still had a pretty high level of consistent performance, and yet he's settled into, like he is so much more comfortable than he was, say, back in the Kansas game or anything like that with his role, with what is expected of him. He didn't have a great game yesterday. He had one really good play late. I thought he played really good defense, but he's good. He's not pressing. He's in a very, very comfortable place with where he is. Now, I still think this team is going to face teams that have a singular, better offensive option late in games than they do sometimes. And Illinois may have that. Illinois' best player, absolutely, probably the most talented player in the Big Ten. There are 2 guys at Northwestern who are on an NCAA tournament team are going to be high draft picks. But of the teams that are playing consequential basketball, he is a top 5 pick. He is phenomenal, and I don't even know how to pronounce his last name, so we'll just call him KJ.
Cockburn.
And I understand he only played 9 minutes, and at least 4 of those fouls were legitimate, and there should be 6 fouls, so don't complain. If you're not part of allowing 6 fouls, and you can't.
Did you tweet that out?
I did. I did, of course. Last night, not during the game, but I just said if you're not going to join the 6 foul campaign, don't complain. And so it will be different.
Who doesn't want to join that?
It will be different in Champaign. And you know what's cool about that game at Champaign? And the Illinois fans are passionate because basketball is their thing. It's like the SEC in football. This is why they're in your face. This is what they live for. You just said the other day the thing that sucks is the Lions. You got to wait like 9 months.
Yeah.
That's how the SEC football is. They got nothing in their lives for 9 months. In Illinois, basketball rules their mood. It creates their mood. And what's great is, Illinois, this is what's good about Michigan State being relevant in basketball again. It's been so long since rival fan bases felt threatened at all by Michigan State. We're irked by Michigan State. They can't wait for Michigan State to show up in Champaign because they think they're going to prove something, and maybe they will. It'll be an interesting game. Michigan State could lose that game and still win the Big Ten. I think Michigan State will put up a pretty good fight there. I think Michigan State's a pretty damn good team. But that sort of stuff's fun, and MSU hasn't been there in a while where that sort of stuff was allowed to really exist because they were just too far down the standings. They were playing on the bubble instead of playing for titles. When you're playing for titles, you're threatening other teams that have dreams too, and you get this sort of discourse online, and it's fun. It's the best way it should be. Do you have any other takes?
Yeah, quickly before we get to everybody's takes here. the Phoenix Suns played Detroit before the Lions game, and I caught this audio clip because I really don't watch the NBA much anymore. But Grayson Allen had a flagrant foul on Marcus Sasser. And what makes this interesting to me is that Greg Kelser and George Blaha, they're still doing the broadcast on, what is it called now? It's not like what's it?
Bally. It's not Bally's. It's FanDuel.
FanDuel, thank you. And do you know how annoying and have a punchable face you have to be for Greg Kelser, Special K, to come after you? He went after Grayson Allen. I'll have a little clip here.
He's fortunate he's playing in this era with these type of shenanigans.
And he went on to talk about how Grayson Allen can't believe, I'm with him though. Why does Grayson Allen get away with this kind of shit? Why isn't like Isaiah Stewart coming over and kind of I'm not saying we have to go back to the bad boy era at all, but I would love it if they did. But I just don't understand how we get like Grayson Allen and like Mahomes like dancing out of bounds and flopping. I just want to pop him one time, get that 15 yards, right? Stop doing that shit. Grayson Allen, stop doing that shit. Next time you go to the lane, I'm going to hammer you.
Yeah.
Right? Like, where is that? Where's the mentality? And by the way,
I'm surprised he hasn't.
And the Lions game, at the end of it, I don't understand. I know I'm old and the players are different, but like Kirby Joseph and the guys are signing, they're swapping jerseys after the game. we're sitting there devastated and just staring. And I know these players, they can move on easier than us fans because we're deranged. But when do we start send them the jersey after the game or something like that, or have somebody hand it to them. Like, they're out there, like, that just rubs me the wrong way sometimes, especially in a game like that. Regular season game, okay, I get whatever. But a loss like that, a devastating loss where they come in your house and kick your ass, you're like, oh, dude, let me sign this to you. He's down like on the ground with a Sharpie fucking writing out a whole like paragraph. And it's like, thanks for kicking our ass. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me, but I can understand why it would in that moment after.
And these guys are going on each other's podcasts. Like, when is the good old? You know what I mean? When you just dislike a fucking guy, you're like, right? Like, hey, I don't want to come on my podcast. Fuck.
I got one more quick one.
All right.
So TikTok was banned and then came back. I don't know really what happened. and I don't use TikTok a lot, and so I don't.
Thank God.
Yeah.
I can't imagine you on TikTok.
If it's a national security threat or problem or whatever, then we shouldn't have it. But what drives me nuts is like what I don't understand is how there isn't a larger discourse about banning all social media for kids under 16, under 18. And when I tweeted this out yesterday, at halftime as a hot take.
You tweeted this out too?
I tweeted this out too.
Holy shit.
It's amazing the number of people who agreed, who are teachers, parents. Like, everybody understands. Like, and I think we are getting closer to a point where we understand this. It's a harder thing to do because you take it away from your kids and other kids have it, and there are lots of, it's a hard thing to negotiate.
Impossible.
It's a hard thing to do. So it's got to be gone for everybody. Kids will adjust quickly. They will find ways. Kids can only have a flip phone till they're 18, 16, whatever it is. Kids will find ways to interact. Kids will go back to playing video games together or playing outside or chatting on the phone, whatever, all the stuff they used to do. Kids will adjust. Kids are resilient. It won't take long. Yes, there will be some certain kids who are already hooked on this stuff. It's a problem. It's like any drug. But this stuff, to me, we are going to find, and I think we already know, is as damaging as just about anything else in the world. And we don't allow, like, I always use cocaine as the example, but I think we need to use it in those terms. We would never allow 12-year-old children, 13-year-old children to use cocaine.
Yeah, they eat sugar. It's the same thing.
Well,
to them.
okay, maybe.
It does the same shit.
Assault weapons, whatever it might be, although occasionally. But, what I'm saying is, and yet I do believe in terms of mental health, in terms of growing up with an imagination, with the ability to think and read and play and whatever, I think this stuff is just as bad, and we need to start talking about it in those terms. And so don't worry about TikTok. If TikTok's our concern, then we're looking at the wrong thing here. We need to start to talk more about getting rid of social media for people under 18 entirely.
Except for Graham. Graham will stay on all social media.
No, I'm over
and keep
18. If I'm addicted, I don't think it's good for me. I'd love to have it gone, mostly.
Yeah.
But there's a certain age where it has been for a long time. And anyway, when
kids would flip their shit if you took all their social media away.
That's fine. The kids now would
start taking parents out.
It would be tough, but the kids who are 5 who never grew up with it, the next batch, those are the kids who will be saved. The kids now.
Are you going to shield the kids from other kids though that never have older siblings and stuff?
Well, I'm saying
they're not going to know.
No, I'm just saying all the kids would lose it. Some of the kids would flip their shit, and that would be tough on them. Anyway, I want us to start thinking in those terms. Like, understand that this stuff is really, really awful for you, and it's really, really awful for kids.
Yeah.
And we should start having that.
It's awful for adults,
It's awful for adults. Like, the idea, if we're losing TikTok, that's good. That's good. We should lose TikTok. We should lose all this stuff. We should lose Meta. And I understand it helps people connect. And so there's some stuff to work out there. But kids, adults can do whatever vice they want, and you know what? It's their life.
Dude,
kids, get rid of it.
Our niece, actually, when they took TikTok down, T got a text from her sister who sent a screen grab of their text message between her and her daughter of like, Mom, they banned TikTok. Mom, what am I supposed to do? Mom, what am I supposed to do? Go out and touch the grass? What am I supposed to,
Yeah.
These kids just have no idea what to do. I mean, are they on the phone all the time watching videos, huh?
When you talk to people who
so glad I don't have kids.
When you talk to people who have kids who don't have access to social media, and they will tell you that when they hang out with other kids who don't have access to social media, it's a very different experience than kids who do. The kids who do just don't even know how to play. They don't know how to communicate. They just sit there and stare at their phones. And we have to set better examples as adults because they see us doing it. The problem is a lot of the things we do, even for work, for news consumption, whatever is on our phones, we got to find ways to set better examples. But I'm just saying right now, this media for kids should not be allowed. All right, we can. That's my rant on that. My off-topic rant. We'll
I enjoy it.
Well, yeah, we'll do some more MSU basketball and Lions. Now let's take a really quick break, and we come back. Your takes. Couch in the Roof, presented by Pure Options Craft Cannabis, and our Monday show, presented by our friends at Muskox Quality Flannels.
Hey, sports fans, are you tired of the same old routine? Looking for a way to unwind after a long day? Look no further than Pure Options, the premier destination for all of your cannabis needs in Lansing, Detroit, Muskegon, and Mount Pleasant. Whether you're cheering for the Lions, Spartans, or the Wolverines, Pure Options has everything you need to elevate your game day experience. Mention Couch the Rube when you visit Pure Options and get a Pro Grow 8th with a $50 purchase. It's our way of saying thank you for being a loyal listener. Swing by Pure Options today and elevate your cannabis experience to a whole new level. Firekeeper's Online Casino and Sportsbook is the site to play. From your phone, tablet, or laptop. Get in on all the football action with pre- and in-game wagering. There's showdowns every week in football that you can't miss. Plus, the college and pro hoops are red hot, and the pucks are cool. Get your first casino deposit and sports wager matched up to $500 each. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and located in Michigan. Gambling problem? Call the Michigan Problem Gambling Helpline at 1-800-270-7117. Where else can you cheer on your team, enjoy a mouth-watering burger or savory sushi, sip on handcrafted cocktails, or one of 46 beers on tap? Take your game day or date night to Cask & Company Kitchen Bar or Front 43 Neighborhood Pub near Frandor. Two amazing places with one awesome blended modern American-Asian menu. Catch the game on one of 30 60-inch TVs or stop in for the all-you-can-eat lunch buffet. Enjoy happy hour or elevate your night out at Cask & Company or Front 43 on East Saginaw in Lansing. Ever wonder how comfortable you can be and how good you can look? Put on a Muskox flannel and find out. Muskox has new arrivals for this fall, including the Caper Green Grand Flannel, which even makes couch look good. Muskox is a Detroit-based flannel company that creates soft and durable flannels made to last a lifetime. They become a great partner with Couch in the Rube, not just because they make us look good and feel good, but because they're good people too, and a socially conscious company. For every $100 purchase, $10 is donated to the Alaska Wildlife Conservation. Muskox flannels are designed with 100% cotton that is ethically sourced and double brushed for softness. Feel the quality and comfort of a Muskox flannel by ordering at GoMuskox.com, where Couch in the Rube listeners can enjoy $15 off their flannel purchase with the promo code HOFF.
Find Couch in the Rube podcasts on Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Google Podcasts, CastBox, and the Rube's favorite, Podcast Addict.
Couch in the Rube, presented by our friends at Pure Options Craft Cannabis, here to help all Lions fans through the coming days in the NFC Championship game. I got to change my flight. I was supposed to come back early from New York after the Rutgers game, and I don't want to be up early, and I have no need to see that game, so I will be changing that flight. And our Monday afternoon show, presented by our friends at Muskox Quality Flannels. Muskox flannels are made in a way you can be proud of, utilizing ethical and sustainable manufacturing and materials. Timeless flannels built for the modern man. I'm telling you, the comfort, the way you look, the durability. A Muskox flannel is worth your money, and the way it makes you feel. I'm telling you, it's on a day like this to walk outside in a Muskox flannel. It's about as good as you can feel when it's 6 degrees. And the best thing is you come in a studio like this where you got bright heat lamps on you, you're still not overly hot. Like it's not.
And the way Couch tweets that people throw shit at him, so it's a good blocker. It blocks
everything.
Stuff.
It makes me it makes me more resistant to venom online. Muskox flannels do all that for you. You can go to Go Muskox. If you're going to tweet something stupid, make sure you do it in a Muskox flannel. Okay, go to gomuskox.com where the promo code is Fix It in Post for $15 off your Muskox flannel for Couch and the Rube listeners. All right, let's dig into some of these takes.
All right, Eric Schultz up first. You don't pay someone $53 million to go 15-2. You pay someone $53 million to win that game. 2+ seasons of elite play, but after that disaster, it's become show me in the playoffs. Time for Jared Goff.
Yeah, I mean he's not the player Lamar is. I understand that, but he's in a Lamar Jackson situation. Lamar actually, had some turnovers, and it wasn't his fault. They lost there at the end, but that's all there is now for Jared Goff. He went 15-2. He's going to have to show he can do it in the playoffs, and to some extent he did a year ago, but that comes with being a starting quarterback on a number 1 seed and making that sort of money, and he's got a couple years to show he can be that guy and do that. And
I would just ask what's another option.
There are no other options.
$53 million,
right.
I understand, but that's like the going rate for a quarterback that's going to get you to the playoffs like that.
Unless you have a rookie quarterback, correct?
Yeah.
And would you rather have like Baker Mayfield who makes less, or would you rather have Jared Goff? I mean, Baker Mayfield's in the 30s,
right?
So the question,
I do like Mayfield.
Yeah. So
I think Jared Goff is kind of made for this offense, though.
I'll say that in 2 years, if Jared Goff has not done it yet, if he's had more struggles in the playoffs and they're up against paying people, he is going to have to restructure his deal mightily to remain as the quarterback.
To answer your question, I'd still pick Jared Goff over Mayfield. I like Mayfield, but
I would now too. Yeah.
Dominic, too many pure options, so I only have one. Jason, Couch troll Twitter must be stopped. You can poke an entire fan bases in despair, but protects Los Monterez to the death. What the fuck are we doing here?
I didn't mean to poke. I understand why some people thought it was poking, because in that moment, it's an emotional pain.
You don't know what you're doing. You have no idea that was going to happen.
I'm not.
You thought you were going to tweet that, and everybody's like, "Man, that's a great point." That's a side. I know I've heard it 93,000 times, but this time it felt like the perfect timing for you to do it. Like, you thought that was going to happen when you hit send?
I didn't. The one I tweeted, I had done 15,000 times.
Oh, okay. Well, I can't. It's hard to keep. I can't tell.
I understand. No, I'm not. I'm not disagreeing with Dominic here. I am nothing but a hypocrite, and these are fair points.
But I'm saying, take us behind it though. So what you're saying is that you were tweeting that out, but you had no idea that you were going to get the blowback for that when you tweeted it out at that moment.
I started to realize
you were surprised when you started getting blowback.
Well, Andrew Gauthier, who has a
donut shop,
but also has hot takes, and both of them have hot takes coming at me a little bit here in this show. But when I start hearing from them, I knew, and you start to realize
they're the people we needed for the intervention, Dominic. Thank you, Andrew and Monica. He'll listen to them.
What I have to remind myself, and this sucks to some degree, is I just don't feel the emotional connection I once did. I want the Lions to win. I want them to do well. But I have to remind myself that I once threw a chair in my parents' dining room after the Lions lost on Labor Day weekend. All right? So I know the emotional feel, and I'm watching like Matt Sheehan, who people might know from Locked On Spartans, just melt down like a 12-year-old after this game. I'm watching people, so I have to understand that a lot of people are really, really hurting in that moment, and I struggle to do it because I can't take myself to that emotional place anymore, which sucks. I mean,
is this your first time doing that though? Like getting blowback for a tweet during a game, like it was just ill-timed, though?
I'm a jackass.
Is it your first? It's not your first time.
And I don't. There are things I'm missing. My brain doesn't register at certain things, and sense.
See, I think you get. I think a part of you likes it.
Okay.
I think a part of you likes a little of the flamethrower thing because you are good at it. It's just you go sometimes it's a little too far.
I enjoy poking the bear. But I didn't.
So now the truth comes out.
This was not me poking the bear, though. This one about the 2 more years.
You thought you'd poke the bear, but you didn't know the blowback would be this extreme, I think. Like, if you knew it was going to be that extreme, you probably wouldn't have.
What I have to remember is I'm not speaking to adults. I'm speaking to fans in that moment. And I don't mean that as like that's realistic. Like, when in that moment, when you've lost a playoff game, you have to remember how people feel. You have to meet people where they are. And I failed to do that in that setting. I needed to meet people.
Do you do the same on Blue Sky?
Blue Sky's a nicer area. I can come up with a different tone.
Oh, so you just flamethrow on Twitter, then go to Blue Sky and talk about fucking rainbows.
I do the same thing. It's just
I see.
More people that can handle it. No, I'm kidding. No, I do the same thing on Blue Sky. And people weren't happy on Blue Sky. It wasn't all that blue, the sky.
Yeah.
You know, on
wait, hold on.
On Blue Sky.
Oh, wait.
Thank you.
Izzo's no longer got to go. An MSU basketball national championship won't erase the agony from the Lions' loss. All-time gut punch. And P.S., Jason is doing a show. I am. Now, I know people bring up the 49ers thing last year, but do you see who I do a show with? You see the tweets, right, of why I didn't want to maybe do a show the day after? Like, if that game was on Sunday, I don't know. If it was Sunday last night, I don't know if I would have been excited to do a show today because Couch is trolling people on Twitter, and I'm like, oh, great, I got to hear this from him. You know, so I'm saying I had a 24-hour break is all I needed.
Trolling's a tough word. I don't think I'm trolling. I'm being more. I'm not trying. Like, when I picture trolling, it's mocking and reveling in people's suffering. I'm not doing that. I'm not. I wanted the Lions to win. I'm not reveling in people's suffering.
But it's hard to tell when you're tweeting it because you don't know whether or not you can take it out of context.
So one of the best things. I'll give you one of the best things that's happened to me in my relationships with readers and MSU fans, and is this show, because people get a chance to hear me with nuance. They still may think I'm a dick, but at least they get to hear it and interact through this, and we have a different type of discussion that comes across. I think one of the problems, like, people get after Solari a lot, right? And I think one of the reasons is they don't. He doesn't get to communicate with them like this on a daily basis. And maybe if he did, they'd still get after him. What I mean is, it has definitely changed my relationship with people because I'm able to say, "Hey, we'll talk about it on the show. If we can have this discussion." Or I talked about it here. Right. I'm able to do less in 280 characters, where tone and sarcasm and certain things aren't as recognizable. And do more of it here, and that's help.
I mean, I know you don't. It's not like you were rooting for the Lions to lose. I mean, obviously, you were telling me like, "Oh man, have fun at the game," blah blah blah. You're not like one of those people that is rooting for the Lions to lose. But I think a part of it is like when you make a certain, you have a take or a certain point, and when it kind of comes to fruition, you revel in that. You enjoy it. I think trolling. There's different levels.
Everybody
trolling.
Enjoys being right, but I don't think I'm right on Jared Goff because Jared Goff has beyond exceeded my expectations. I think I was being real with the window that they have, and I think it's a 2-year window. They have a 2-year window where I would argue for the next 2 years, outside of Patrick Mahomes and maybe the Chiefs, because Mahomes is Mahomes. But I don't know if outside of the Chiefs, I would rather be any other franchise going into a season for the next 2 years, going into the next 2 years in the Detroit Lions, based on the personnel they have, everything they have, including the quarterback. Do they have the best quarterback? No, because the thing I would basically say is you take Jared Goff and put him on the Tampa Bay Bucks, and we may like him more than Mayfield, but they're not a title contender.
No.
If you took Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes on the Bucks, they are a title contender. Like that's the difference, right? So we know that. We understand that. I'm not saying he's the best quarterback, but he's good enough. He's a good quarterback. And the team around him for the next 2 years, I think I would rather have that team with that quarterback than anybody else's situation other than Mahomes and the Chiefs, just because he's done it so many times. So that's not, I don't think this is a bad place to be. I am somebody, what took me a long time to get over it with the Lions, with Goff, is somebody who grew up as an Elway fan. My dream for the Lions was always to have the quarterback that gives you a 15-year run.
That was Stafford.
And and it didn't work. Mm-hmm. But you think about Josh Allen. Like, this was supposed to be a rebuilding year for the Bills. But they have Josh Allen, so it's not. You know what I mean?
But it didn't work with Stafford because of management,
correct,
ownership.
Correct.
Right?
And
if this iteration of the Lions, right now, and we had Stafford come in, it would be unbelievable. Correct. Stafford is an unbelievable Hall of Fame quarterback.
Correct.
Say what you will about him. Say what you will about Kelly Stafford. But he's a Hall of Fame quarterback and unbelievable.
He's not quite Josh Allen because Josh Allen's size and versatility and running and everything allows
he plays
him
through so many injuries too.
Yeah, and
I love Stafford.
That allows him to elevate. I'm talking about Allen allows him to elevate a lesser team. But yeah, no, Stafford's above Goff. He still is above Goff.
Dude's throwing no-look passes. I mean, I know Mahomes does it too, but anyway. Yeah. Mike DeShelter, number 1, MSU basketball and Breslin atmosphere have returned to pre-pandemic levels. 2, would you rather lose like the Lions or the Ravens? Oh, like the Ravens.
You'd rather lose like the Ravens?
Yeah. Oh, fuck yeah. Absolutely. To have a rookie quarterback come in and we just get gut punched like that.
Yeah.
To have it to where one guy gets kind of I know there's different things you can blame it on, but Mark Andrews, you can blame it on your aging tight end and get rid of him and then come back next year to where you get your ass beat and everybody's talking about how great the rookie anyway. I just think, I'd rather lose like the Ravens.
So the argument to lose like the Ravens is they were on the road this year. So what you got to do next year is you got to make sure you're the home team. That makes it harder. They did have a drop and they don't have
last year it was kind of like that.
Lamar though had a great drive at the end though. You don't have the questions about whether he's going to drive you at the end. He did that part of it. The argument against the Lions is not only did a rookie a team that began their rebuild with a quarterback, which is what the Lions didn't do, then just beat you because obviously they were decimated with injuries. I'm
happy for Magic Johnson too.
Yeah,
I wish I was there. I'd be like, hey, what about the Lansing Promise, Magic?
Come on, Magic. Sell the Redskins or Commanders.
I know you have the magic touch just going around to these teams, just putting your finger on it. How about Lansing Promise, man?
Yeah. Leave a legacy. Nobody's ever going to remember that you were the owner of the Commanders. Nobody ever. But
Chad Latz will.
You could change a lot of futures in Lansing, Michigan, Magic.
Ken Chu, Graham, if Jason starts rattling off names when you can't remember someone, don't stop him. We love that shit. And Baked, MSU men's basketball is matchup resistant.
That's a great way of putting it because, again, the matchup proof thing is
it's not as fun, though, to say.
No, but
matchup resistant.
It's sort of like blue curtain instead of blue wall, right? It's because matchup proof, again, is
welcome to the blue wall.
Is there's nothing that you can't handle defensively, and there's been very few MSU teams that could deal that. The one that had fewer guys that could do it, the Xavier Tillman team in 2020, because of Tillman and because of what he did, that team was the closest team because of one dude defensively. Now, but the team in 2014 when they were clicking, that was a team that could just throw size at you, could guard every position, all that stuff. You were kind of there's nothing you could do to them that gave them a problem defensively. Now, this team can get there in most games, but its starting lineup may not, it's not matchup proof. But they can get to a lineup that counters what you do, and that's a great way of putting it, matchup resistance.
Tom Lizzo, big difference in this MSU team than the past few years is avoiding long scoring droughts. They may not be elite scoring, but they're consistent.
100%. They're scoring more points per game than anybody since the 1986 team with Scott Skiles senior year. And scoring makes life easier, and they're just better offensively. A lot of that has to do with fears, has to do with the number of players they have. The ball's moving at a better pace. And they've got big men who see the floor and can make passes and all that sort of stuff, and some guys who can shoot. I mean, there's an argument when you watch Illinois and their foreign big guy from Croatia make those alley-oop passes he did, and then you watch Kohler, who's a foreign big man, to be honest, and I know he's from the United States, but he plays like a foreign big man, and Zapala, that unless they're really skilled, and I'm not saying you don't go get a Booker and you want a Kohler if you play, you want European-style big men. But there is zero. The old American-style big man should not be on your recruiting radar unless they are truly a force. You want the guy. You want that skill set because of what it does for your offense. That should be a part of every roster you try to build. And if that means parking an assistant over in Latvia, freaking do it.
Corey Ostrom next. Number 1, Jared Goff's ceiling will not be enough to get the Lions a Super Bowl win. There's a reason the Rams traded him, and we've seen it in the playoffs the past 2 seasons. I'm not a Goff hater. I'm a Goff realist. 2, when MSU is closing games and resting fears, Akins should run the offense. Holloman is loose with the ball, and Richardson is young. This is this way. If things stall, Akins can create.
Yeah, there's an argument for it. I mean, they were going with Richardson a lot more at one point, and I still think there's a chance that that's – I don't know. But
Still have to do that, right?
Well, the thing with Richardson is he is at his best, and where he is really, really dynamite is moving off the ball into space and catching and going. Like, he is really good at that already. I mean, he's good on the ball, but, like, he scores a lot on the ball too. But it's a good question. And Holloman, I understand what you mean. Holloman had a couple turnovers, but he was pretty good yesterday. But it is something to watch, and they do have options there. They have a number of. I mean, that's part of the reason this team is effective is they have a number of secondary ball handlers, and that's not something they've either not had or used. Like, they didn't use Akins hardly at all in that role in previous years, and they do now more.
Eric Larson, number one, we will never hear another Jared Goff chant again. 2, this MSU Hoops team has a lot of room to grow still. And from Dan Campbell's tears. Number 1, Lions don't make the playoffs next year. 2, we should never hear the Jared Goff chant ever again. And 3, I don't care about the rest of the playoffs.
I want to start with number 3 here. Are you going to watch other playoff games?
Yeah, the NFC. I mean, I might skip the NFC one.
Yeah,
but I watched the games yesterday. It was brutal. I still love the NFL. I love the game of football and all that. I'm not going to go. I'm not out. I wish, honestly, if they canceled the Super Bowl, I wouldn't be bummed, though.
If I were Fox, I would take the NFC Championship game in Michigan markets, and I would put the NFC Championship in Michigan markets on FS1, so you could still see it if you wanted to see it. But I would put something else on Fox because
well, you don't have to turn it on.
Right.
You don't want to see
That's
it.
true.
What does it matter if it's fucking on FS1 or whatever?
I'd rather watch.
You don't want to watch it. Just turn. It's forced on or
Titanic something? Or something on there. I don't know. Put something else on. I will definitely watch Buffalo, Kansas City. That I want to see.
Yeah, but you don't care. You're indifferent. So why wouldn't you watch the NFC Championship?
I'm not indifferent. See, that's the thing. I'm not.
I thought you're not a fan.
I'm not hurt. But I'm not indifferent. I want the Lions.
Well, I'm still going to be hurt, I guess, right? It's just watching the NFC Championship game. I'm going to be like, we should be here, so I might just, whatever.
I think I need the Commanders to lose, though. If the Commanders were to keep winning, that would be
but if they go into Philly, then it would make the sting of the loss feel a little less.
That's a good argument.
So if they go in and beat Philly and make a fucking Super Bowl, that'd be wild. I mean, I guess I'm rooting for Washington, I guess. Not to win the Super Bowl.
The Jared Goff chant won't happen until he wins the Super Bowl. Like, if he gets them to a Super Bowl, like, you won't hear it. Like, if he has a great NFC Championship game.
And that's fine. It was
then
maybe, can it just be a 1 year? I don't know. Like, he had a great season. I mean, we did win 15 games, and we chanted Jared Goff at different times. Everybody's got to get rid of it. And
nothing wrong with that.
The Lions won't make the playoffs next year?
The people are getting upset with, Jaden Ivey goes down with a broken leg, and people in the Pistons game are chanting Jared Goff. Like, okay, let's.
So what does that mean? Does that mean everybody that chants Jared Goff, us fellow white guys, according to you, that right? Like, there's people there was someone that yelled something out during the national anthem in the Minnesota game or something about something, and it's like, does that mean everybody's? I don't know.
I would like to see the intersection between a certain type of cultural craft bearded fella who roots for certain minor league soccer teams and chanting Jared Goff, and I think the diagram would be pretty high overlap. That's all I'm saying. That's it.
I got to say, though, chant Jared Goff when Ivy snapped his leg is pretty wild. Clocked in Spartan, number 1. This MSU team is still a ways from their ceiling, but that ceiling remains in question with strength in numbers. Hard for guys to get over their own respective hurdles, playing 20 minutes per game and having a sub nearby at first sign of adversity. 2, also to that point, this team is loaded. Tired of hearing we just have a group of role players and no all-league players. If you per 40 the stats of our 7 to 8 starters, we have some absolute thoroughbreds, which are our real ceiling.
I mean, here's the challenge, though. Who do you play a lot less? Frankie Fiddler was falling almost out of the rotation, and now he's had 3 really good games in a row, and Richardson struggled the other day. And you're not going to not have Richardson play. Like, they have 10 guys who deserve to be in the rotation, and that's not always been the case with the way Izzo plays his rotational minutes quite to this degree. And and they all bring something different. I understand what you're saying here, that, there are times where you still get guys who seem to get going, but I think we've seen less of that. Like, I think Cohen Carr was coming out of the game, and I could be wrong on this. I didn't ask about this. Cohen Carr had a really nice move to the basket and finish at a key moment. And there were people at the scores table, and I think he was one of the guys coming back. And Fiddler looked back, and he and Izzo said something to each other, and then Fiddler came in for Booker, and it was and it was Fiddler and Carr together. I think that was a recognizing they needed something. Carr had just provided it. Let's ride that. And that's, again,
Don't coach my team.
That's me surmising. I didn't ask about that specific situation.
You're coaching Izzo's team. I love it.
We finally had conversations, and it's working out for him. So.
DeUper next on the Lions. This loss almost felt expected. The injuries on defense were devastating, and it was only a matter of time before it cost us. Disappointing for sure, excuse me, but not as painful as last year. On the Spartans, the benefit of this team not having a singular alpha is that they are able to ride the hot hand on any given night. One of their top 8 might be the one that goes off. Conversely, we're not doomed if any 1 or 2 players is having an off night. And baked in bonus, it's not going to be this year, but Garrick Norman will be a fan favorite next year. He's got kind of a dirtball swagger to him.
I like Garrick Norman a lot, and I'm curious to see,
dirtball swagger.
It's a good.
I'm in.
That's a great way of putting it, and I hope it works out for him at MSU. I think he likes it at MSU. It'll be interesting to see if he long term thinks this is his level, and Michigan State has, like, you even look at next year's roster and say best case scenario for MSU, which is just Jaden Akins leaves, everybody else in the backcourt returns, and that includes Kurtang. Like, minutes are still going to be hard. He's going to have to play. Now, he came off an injury which set him back, and I think he's a guy who can shoot and do some things at the high major level. The question will be his patience, we'll see what that is. But you can certainly see the potential for him to be a fan favorite.
DMB, MSU needs Richardson or Fiddler to step up as the go-to guy late in the game. Too much data says Akins is not that guy. Herb Street's dog will replace Corso when he dies. That's the only explanation for the constant 69 sessions forced upon us each week.
It's a bit much. I like dogs. What's that movie where I like dags? What's that movie with Brad Pitt and
Where the Men Aren't Seven?
No, fuck. Hold on. Gypsy? No, they're gypsies. It's called. Hold on. Let me look this up. Hold on.
Hop.
Snatch. Great movie. Snatch. I like dags. It's all the time. Yeah, it's a good movie.
I think how we figured that part out.
I would recommend.
So Herb Street's dog was everywhere on that show? Is that what he's talking about, or is it Corso that he's talking about?
No, he's saying Herb Street's dog will replace Corso.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, just
can't be any worse.
So Jaden Akins had one really nice bucket late. Where he is not afraid to attack. He will tell you the one where he switched to the right and kind of threw a loop up there and didn't get the call. He probably should have pulled up because they were playing so far off him, but he knew they were in the bonus. They were trying to be aggressive. He was trying to get to the line, and that was a mishap on that, and he just didn't draw the contact. So I don't know. It just hasn't bit them yet. They've won 11 in a row. So that's at some point, and that. On the road in a close game, we'll start to see, are these deficiencies really there? And if they are, then that's one of the great things about the college basketball season is, you can lose a game somewhere in a difficult spot or even at home in a tough spot because you don't do something that you then need to figure out, and you have time to figure it out because in March that'll send you home. And so there's still time to figure out whether that's really an issue.
Professor, expectations in sports rarely lead to a good feeling at the end of the season, but the Lions' future is bright.
This is the first time that expectations weren't met, and that's what hurt, too, for people. Like last year, even though it was really a disappointing, soul-crushing way to lose in the NFC Championship game, that was a season that met expectations.
See, I might change my mind. I don't know. This loss might be worse than last year.
Yeah.
Because I think we just had the path. We had home field advantage. We had the bye, number 1 seed. I know that we were up 17 in the NFC Championship. I don't know. They both blow, I guess.
Yeah, and
I don't know.
And they were beaten by Jaden Daniels, but they also blew it this time. They blew it both times, but they really blew it this time.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of different things, but it was coaching and Jared Goff. That's what did it.
Injuries. Detroit Spartan, hot take. Seemed like Couch enjoyed that Lions loss.
I did not.
Best take, feels like ball is bouncing MSU's way this year, and we are in the ref's favor at the moment. Hope it stays that way come March. And big take, Akon is the most underrated artist of the millennium. Wow, interesting. Big Akon fan. Detroit Spartan. Never would have guessed.
Yeah, I didn't enjoy the Lions' loss, and I can
agree. Listen, I know Couch didn't want the Lions to lose. I just think it's more of his thing. He likes to.
Well, financially, I didn't want the Lions to lose. I mean, there aren't enough football games to make back.
He's talking about your tweet. Whatever.
I did not. Yes, and I understand that. I did not. I mean, I was not happy they lost. I just wasn't. I mean, it's not.
Bumpity bump.
Yeah, I get that.
I wanted to jump through my phone and just fucking tackle you myself.
I understand that.
Bumpity bump. You know exactly what you're doing when you type bumpity bump.
I probably need to retire that line.
Dot.
Sorry.
Everybody needs to retire that shit. Bumpity bump. And now I remember. Now I'm triggered. No, exactly.
If you are ever triggered at any moment by any of my tweets, Pure Options is here for you. It's the best thing to do before you log on Twitter in any realm, especially if you're going to use the For You tab instead of the people you follow. And if you're going to be the people you follow might be me, and that can make it even worse. Pure Options is here for you. Go to pureoptions.com. Make sure you've got plenty of MGs at your disposal. And give yourself 20, 30 minutes for that stuff to set in before you open Twitter. That should really be a requirement. Pure Options before Twitter. Go to pureoptions.com for location information, for specials, and to join their Pure Perks loyalty program.
Jarrett, next. Number 1, the result for the Lions was not surprising, just disappointing. 2, Fiddler will be the next MSU player this season to score 20-plus in a game.
Could happen. He's got that sort of ability to him, and he can score in bunches. He gets to the line. He's not. The thing is, even when he plays well, he doesn't play more than about 20 minutes. So that's.
Now hold on. Now let me ask something. The result for the Lions was not surprising. You were not surprised at all that we didn't even bring our B game. We got our ass handed to us. Like I've heard that a couple times today. People are. I was not surprised. It did not surprise me. All right, well, I'm glad it didn't surprise. I was fucking surprised when I was at the game. I was surprised that we did not show up. I
do think there are, and I'm not knocking people because I write things that I think definitively all the time that sometimes don't turn out to be true. But I listened to probably 7 or 8 football podcasts going into the weekend where people were adamant that there was no way that the Commanders could win. There was no way that Kansas City could be pushed. The Rams didn't have a chance in hell of doing what they did. Who
said that?
Oh, lots of people on Ringer and other podcasts. Like all these people act like they know the sport at a certain level, and then it didn't pan out. The Ravens were just too much for the Bills. Like all this stuff. Like there are a lot of people today that need to check themselves and need to remind themselves next year not to say things definitively.
But you have to make content. I don't mind if people. It's like Jason Garrett was on Dan Patrick, and he goes, "Who do you think's going to win the Bills-Ravens game?" And his head fucking exploded because heaven forbid, he makes one pick. No one gives a shit, Garrett. No one's watching that going, "Oh my God, Jason Garrett picked the Bills." I'm hammering it.
No, nothing wrong with making.
I don't mind people making picks and
making a pick is fine.
Right.
Explaining why you think something's going to happen is fine, but being adamant that you can't see any other possibility, and then when it goes the other way, then what have you been watching? What have you been analyzing? I'm not going to sit here and tell you tomorrow that the Michigan State basketball is better than Illinois. When they go down there, I don't see any way Illinois wins that game, or I'm not going to tell you I don't see any way Michigan State wins that game. I'm really good at saying go either way, but the point being, I'm going to tell you why I think something could happen, but why I could be off, and the lack of awareness that what their analysis could be at all off was what drove me nuts going into this, and it also cost me a fair bit of money because I had a lot of look, everybody had the parlays going with the NFL games in Ohio State, the teasers going with the NFL games in Ohio State, and the Lions screwed more of those than anybody else in the history of the world. And so there's going to be some you're going to hear,
except for bookmakers,
right? You're going to hear some resentment out there about the Lions and sort of I think they may be done. Toast, Goff stinks. You're going to hear some of that is financial. People are reacting. The Lions screwed it up, and teams. Your number one job in this world, if you're not, is to cover the spread for people or cover teasers, and they didn't do that, and they're not going to say that in the post game. But I'm saying that's they didn't do their job this weekend in terms of the gambling community at large. So you're going to hear that resistance from people.
Andrew Gauthier, Graham, if you genuinely believe an NFL franchise could afford to stash 2 starter quality cornerbacks, and 1 starter quality defensive. What are you missing words here? Until week 12, in the words of Logan Roy, you are not a serious person. Let's keep in mind salary cap and strategic considerations. NFL teams need to win enough games through week 12 to make the playoffs, and high-quality NFL players won't sit for the first 12 weeks. Also, following your logic, both of our starting defensive ends were out for the season by week 6, so if they started the week 12, they would have been out before the playoffs. So when they made a damn bit of difference, you can't time injuries just as much as you can time the stock market. I just hope for your sake, Pure Options was involved when you typed bumpity bump. Dude, I'm telling you, bumpity bump. I could just set anyone off. Bonus take. Read the room, dude. For the second year in a row, you had to post something snarky about the Lions in the midst of an excruciating defeat. I don't need that kind of negativity in my life, Graham.
This is from a Chelsea fan in the Premier League. He likes negativity.
Don't bring soccer into this shit.
I'm sorry. The bumpity bump, I admit, not the great line. We're done with that. We're retiring bumpity bump. We're retiring bumpity bump in situations where I just didn't. You're right. I didn't read the room in terms of I forget how emotional people are in that moment.
You forget.
I do because
Really?
I don't feel it.
After last year, you didn't learn anything?
I didn't tweet that. Did I tweet that last
You
year?
just said last year. I don't remember what you tweeted. He was talking about you did it last year, too.
That's
So
possible. I don't remember.
obviously you forget as well.
Yeah, it just all rolls off. Yeah, no.
Like I said, I do like some of it. I think you're good at doing some of that, get people stirring some shit up. But sometimes, you go bumpity bump.
All fair.
Monica, dear Graham, your invite to St. Patrick's Day dinner has been revoked until further notice. Your I told you so snarky attitude will not be forgiven easily and will never be forgotten.
Wow.
P.S. Elizabeth is still invited. You can stay home with your burnt milk oatmeal. P.P.S. Clean the damn house before Elizabeth gets home.
Ouch.
She not home yet? Oh, that's why you were tweeting. You were going wild, dude.
Even the British forgave the Germans after World War II. Man, this is rough. Never.
You had the weekend to yourself?
Will not be forgiven. No. She's talking about St. Patrick's Day.
Oh.
Yeah, St. Patrick. Which, by the way, St. Patrick's Day, for me to go to the St. Patrick's Day dinner requires them to root against their own interest anyway, because Michigan State would have to be out of the NCAA tournament or Big Ten. I can never make it.
Bummer.
So I will.
Oh, maybe next year.
But I do appreciate the invite, and Monica,
It's been revoked. There is no.
Yeah,
what are you
there's
talking
no coming
about?
back. Yeah, I'll stay
Thanks
home
for the invite.
Yeah,
you just took it away.
Stay home, my burn.
Your wife's there. Yeah. Anyway, Tyler. At least Jalen Hurts and Philly won't be good enough to beat the AFC winner. That'll make me 5% less dead inside. 5%'s good. It's a good start.
Yeah,
I can understand.
start somewhere.
Yeah.
Pure Options can.
Pure
do the
Options
rest.
takes it to about 35%.
Yep.
Helped out yesterday. JB, watching college football via the Skycast is better to watch than the regular broadcast. No announcers, just the atmosphere and the bands. You both should check it out for the national title game. It should be on ESPN News. I can't. Yeah. You know what, JB? I'll try it out.
Yeah.
I'll try it out, start the game, see what's going on. I tried the Manning cast for some of these things. It's just not for me. I don't know. I'm glad people enjoy it. I like the Manning brothers are entertaining. I get that, but
to me, it depends on the game and the mood I'm in. Like, I am much more likely to turn to the Manning cast on a really dog shit game. And okay, I'm on the treadmill. I'm trying to watch a game. This game is crud. Like, let's see if I can be entertained. Otherwise, the problem is, I think Buck and Aikman are the best broadcasting duo in the sport, and so I like listening to them on Monday Night Football.
Aikman's good now. He's calling people out.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
But I'm
saying that's what guys should do in that level, like Aikman.
Yeah.
Right? You should be able to call. I'm not saying every single time, but when guys are like Mahomes flopping and stuff, he hates that. So, Spartan Frank. This MSU basketball team being able to beat a fantastic Illini team while playing a pedestrian game themselves speaks volumes about their ceiling. They'll need an A game in Champaign, but by no means is it out of the question. Sparty on. I'll be keeping an eye out for Graham at the USC game. And bonus, Lions go 8-9 next year and miss the playoffs. Jared Goff is a horse with no legs once Ben Johnson is gone. He needs an elite offensive mind calling plays to have any success.
Let's hope that's not the case. I don't think it is.
If you think Ben Johnson is between the Raiders and staying with the Lions, right? I think losing that game, right? Like, I don't think the Raiders is a great job. I don't think it's a job that Ben Johnson goes, oh, man, I get the Tom Brady thing, but Mark Davis is still a penis. Right? Like the ownership sucks. You don't have a quarterback. Like, why would you want to go there when you could be a god here in Detroit and win a Super Bowl?
And especially if you came back, you want to be sort of forgiven for a bad game. And nobody, look, forgiven's people forgive easily unless you're Monica. But the, to come out and say, hey, like if his excuse, part of his reason for coming back was like that game left such a bad taste, I couldn't walk away now. We got to win this together. Like people would be all in on him again. People would be like, yeah, all right, that's our guy. Yeah.
Jebediah, and as embarrassing and shitty as the Lions' loss was, it clearly showed this team wasn't anywhere close to winning the Super Bowl with the defensive injuries and just got the heartbreak over with 1 week early. We'll be back. Just a shitty time to have a shitty game. And bonus, MSU basketball, as it stands, looks most likely as a Sweet 16, maybe Elite 8 team. The depth is awesome, but the lack of a superstar is going to limit their potential. Obviously, there's still time for that to change. Nevertheless, the Big Ten is ours to lose.
One of the reasons the Big Ten is so important for Michigan State to win this year, I think, is, number one, it establishes, regardless of what happens in March and how far they go, you did something that is hard to do, that only the great teams or the really, really, really good teams in Michigan State history, even on the Izzone era, have done. Like, you've done something at that tier. And you do it on the first time of 18 games, or 18 teams, 20 game schedule, to do it over time with that level of consistency. It would be meaningful, and this team would have a little something. Michigan State, before they made that Final Four run, surprisingly, right, they were a bubble team for a while, and they get hot in the Big Ten tournament, and they lose to on a, like, I think it was a Bronson-Kennig 3 by Wisconsin in the Big Ten tournament championship game. And the reason that Big Ten tournament, which often doesn't mean as much as the regular season, meant so much to Izzone, and he was so disappointed that year, is he didn't see the Final Four run coming. He wanted that team, which had kind of overcome bubble status and had a rough go, to had something that could be theirs. And to have won a Big Ten tournament together, that would have been something cool. I think for this team and this program to win a Big Ten championship, to raise a banner again when a banner hasn't been raised, would be just a huge freaking deal. So, yeah, there are questions still about what this team is in March, and I don't think anybody's going to blow them out. But whether they can actually make a run all the way to the final weekend, we will see. But winning a Big Ten conference championship would be a massive deal.
David Cox next. The Spartans will win the Big 18 and not have a first-team all-league player. Surprising to see people say they aren't as talented as other teams. Fears, Holloman, and Jace will run circles around this fraud and Smith in a few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, one of the downsides of depth is that people assume you don't have greatness among you, right? And whereas if you put and maybe they don't, but if you put Cohen Carr on Northwestern, he's playing 33 minutes a game, and he's putting up numbers, and I think he's a pretty well household name because of his dunks. Jace Richardson probably the same way. It doesn't mean they should be playing that long. Doesn't mean they're not better off in this situation, and maybe each of them could be playing a few more minutes. I tend to think MSU is generally better with Cohen Carr on the court. But
not just dunks out of Cohen Carr. I mean,
no,
like his defense, the blocks. I just love it.
No, and the way he attacks the rim in the half court, like he is a really emerging player who's starting to hit open threes. You know, like he is potentially because of his athleticism. I mean, he's not going to have to be a great shooter, but you can see now. You remember before we were talking about how many pros each team has, and we're saying Jace Richardson's the only guy who, if he left now, is probably a first-round pick, and even that I don't know. But there are a number of guys who could be pros. And Cohen Carr is one of those guys. And we'll see what he develops into before he's done. But there are elements of him where you can see that working out.
Pat Caverly next. I think it's actually a blessing in disguise that MSU doesn't have one go-to guy at the end of games. Last couple of years, it seemed everybody stood around and waited for Walker to take the shot. Nobody on this team seems afraid of the moment. Harder for teams to defend, too.
Yeah, I mean, that was a problem with, Walker was a really good player, but they did become reliant on him, and it wasn't, this is a better team than last year. And some of that has to do with, and I really believe this, their depth creates competition within, and all those guys know they need to play. Like last year's team had some games where, like Walker, once he got hurt and he was trying to stay out there, he was not the same defensive player, and he would try to have his moments, and they still needed him out there to do that, and that's not going to happen this year. If you're not healthy enough to play, you wouldn't play. Or if you're not playing well, you wouldn't play. last year, as angry as Izzo got at A.J. Hoggard at times, once Jeremy Fears was no longer an option, A.J. Hoggard was ultimately going to be the point guard more often than not, and
we said, would somebody please guard somebody?
It's just a better team.
Scott, number one, the way Fiddler turned his head and waited for Kasparis to jump and then go up the shot to draw the contact was masterclass. Kasparis was not as mentally sharp as he needed to be and out of position. MSU knew this and took advantage. Also, 20 fouls called on both teams. 2 Kasparis fouls in the last 4 games for Illinois. 4, 3, 4, and 5. In Big Ten play, the scouting report says go at him and get him out of position, and he will foul.
Yeah, I mean, look, I believe in 6 fouls in college basketball. I believe that bad calls ruin a lot of games or change a lot of games because they get stars off the floor. And I'm not saying every one of those 5 fouls was definitely and definitively a foul. But they went at him. And then once he was in foul trouble, and I talked to Frankie Fiddler in the locker room about this, like he knew exactly who was on his hip, and he knew how many fouls he had, and he leaned into them. And Fiddler's a good guy at drawing fouls, and that's something that And the other thing is Illinois. You've seen a lot of Illinois discourse about that situation, but Illinois had a freshman who hadn't scored more than 7 points in his last 5 games, have 16 points in the first 10 minutes. When they play in Champaign, and again, I would pick Illinois in Champaign. But when they play in Champaign, I guarantee you MSU has a different matchup plan for that, right? They're not going to let that happen again. And so that element of the game is going to be taken away.
Travis Maynard, number one, Tom Izzo's demeanor has never been more polar opposite at consecutive postgame pressers. 2, Jackson Kohler is a better 5 than a 4. And 3, being perennially bad is easy. Being good enough to win and falling short is hard. Lions fans, welcome to the Packers fan experience. Crushing pain of hope.
Yeah, but the Packers have Super Bowl titles, and that the difference is Lions fans. Like I'm just going to speak for myself here. One of the things I struggle with the Lions, and it really is trusting them, and it has nothing like you should be able to trust a 15-2 team, but I've got 40 years of baggage that's very hard for me to look at that uniform and trust, and then just when you start to trust. And put 47 teasers with the Lions, they have that game, and you're fragile again, and like there is a
but you're fragile. But like again, like I said at the beginning of the show, you have to remember who you like this staff that we have now.
Totally.
It isn't like if this was just a one-off thing and we had a run because a guy got lucky.
Minimum.
Dan Campbell's here to stay. He's a coach that guys respect and guys that like, and Brad Holmes is a smart general manager. So, I mean, the future is bright. That's the thing you can look at and go, okay, it's not the same old line.
Minimum 2 more years to me. I said in terms of this specific window with most of these guys. And for the next 2 years, outside of having Patrick Mahomes and being Kansas City, and that's only because I have Mahomes, I would rather be the Lions than any other team in the NFL. And I think the Lions are still in a great spot. It stinks today, but again, if you had to pick any situation, can you pick one that's definitely better? And I understand Buffalo has a better quarterback, and this was probably their low point in terms of the rest of the roster. So I get that there are situations. Baltimore, you can make an argument at places. I would make that argument for the Lions. And to the Jackson Kohler point, I tend to agree. I think the best lineup most often is Kohler at the 5 and with Cohen Carr at the 4.
MZA next. Number 1, MSU played their B-plus game and still won. 2, the national media are in shambles because MSU beat their darling Illinois without having a true star.
I haven't seen a lot of national media stuff. I just remind you not to listen to them. I mean, national media people are just fighting for relevance every day of their lives, and it's just not really a
really.
You don't have an automatic audience, and so
I didn't know they were in shambles though because MSU won.
Yeah, I don't know if they're in shambles, but yeah, you
Scott Docterman, he's in shambles.
I don't think Docterman is.
He's national media.
Those are reluctant national media. Him and Quinn, those are reluctant people. Those are people who didn't want the gig and took it because that's what they were asked to do. That was a sacrifice. That was actually
2 guys that never say bumpity bump. I'm guessing.
That's fair.
Scotty Green, El Camino next. Number 1, great win, but I'm betting the house on Illinois when we visit them on February 15th. 2, Booker wasn't bad on Sunday, but he seems like a guy whose motor will never reach his talent. And 3, Brad Underwood is Brendan Gleeson.
I can see. Yeah.
Who's Brendan Gleeson?
You never look up Brendan Gleeson real quick. I'll show you.
I give myself some off.
Yeah.
I ride through the city's backside.
He's in. He's an Irish actor. I'm trying to think what you've seen him in.
Yeah, right.
You see the facial structure.
Sure. Yeah. Jay Riemenschneider. It hurts me deep down to have to admit this, but MSU is the best team in Big Ten basketball and will win the regular season title outright with fewer than 3 losses.
Yeah, I mean, fewer than 3 means they're winning somewhere tough on the road, but in a couple places on the road. If I had to pick Michigan State's schedule to this point, I think I'd go like 16-4 in the Big Ten, which I think will at least get a share of it. But and maybe again, I've underestimated them to some degree, and I'm learning to trust them more and more. And so I could be low on that.
Nick Gandhi next. MSU win good. Lions loss very bad. Aussie Open take is that it's damn near impossible. It's like caveman. MSU win good. Lions loss very bad. Aussie Open take is that it's damn near impossible to get up for these majors anymore without the prime big 3. Alcaraz needs a true rival or two, not Grandpa Djokovic.
Okay, a couple things here. One, the Aussie Open, right, has been I've watched more Australian Open this year than ever in my life. Now,
really,
the Alcaraz Djokovic match that starts at like 4:10 a.m. Going into Tuesday morning, that's a pain in the ass to get up for. I wish sometimes the time change sucks, but there've been a lot of games at 7 p.m., 10 p.m. that I've been able to watch. Yeah, it's been this, and even after the Lions the other night, it was like comfort food. And I'm telling you right now, if you need comfort food right now, we talk a lot about muskox flannels, and yes, obviously a muskox flannel is a great way to feel better. But Midtown Brewing Company is also a great way to find great comfort food and get out of the cold and enjoy a cozy vibe. And one of the things they've introduced is a baked French onion soup, which looks fantastic. I cannot wait to get this. A French onion soup with an American stout. I mean, this thing is lights out. $7 baked French onion soup at Midtown Brewing Company in downtown Lansing. An awesome place for a date night, a drink after work, a luncheon, whatever you may, whatever suits your fancy. To the question on the Australian Open, though, I think Sinner is probably the favorite. I think he is the betting favorite to win this year. He's phenomenal. So he has a true rival in that. I think he's betting favorite over Alcaraz. There are 2 or 3 really good young players, guys who are like 18, 19 who have had good tournaments. Fonseca, who lost in the was it second round but anyway, a lot of really, really good American tennis is okay, but men's tennis is in really good shape, and I think you're going to see a number of you're going to see a top 4 or 5 that's real strong for
no U.S. guys though. There's no one in the U.S. that's
there's the Ben Sheltons of the world. There's not really in that top tier. And
Tifo.
Yeah, that's Tiafoe's in that next tier down. Yeah, not yet. But
that's what we need.
It would help. But I think if you pay attention, like I've learned a lot of these guys. There's also you can bet a little bit and make some money, and especially in those early round matches. Nothing makes you feel better than listening to a British accent give you picks on an Australian Open second round match. I'm telling you, that is a great place to be.
Aiden's child next. Number 1, the Department of Education Title IX ruling demanding gender equity for NIL and revenue sharing will be what drives athletes to unionize. Football players need to file a class action lawsuit against them, and everyone needs to quit pretending this has anything to do with education. 2, the SEC is a basketball conference. 6 teams in the top 11, all ahead of top-ranked Big Ten teams. Meanwhile, the ACC excels at nothing. Only Duke in the top 25. And from Bibby, 5 SEC teams would win the Big Ten. I've never seen the conference this bad. MSU not having to go to Mackey locks up a share of the Big Ten.
Some good stuff here. Number 1, the SEC looks pretty good right now. I'll say this, though. I mean, do they care? I mean, there are fan bases that do care, and Tennessee's is increasingly care. And there are, Kentucky's obviously cares. But that's the downside of the SEC. I mean, it's a tree in the forest in terms of basketball. All those fan bases would happily go 0-30 in basketball for one more football win, which makes the whole thing they do less relevant. And you know how you know that? A lot of those schools don't have very many traveling beat guys because people just don't read about their teams as much. The first one, though, is the more important thing to get into from Aiden's child, because the Department of Education had a ruling on Title IX basically saying that NIL and the rev sharing through the House settlement needs to be equal, which doesn't work, right? And one thing that you're going to hear from administrators is you're going to get sued no matter what, so you might as well go the route of having decent football. And this is overreach, and I know the Department of Education is turning over now, so this may be a different ruling under a new administration. Certainly not an administration coming in that I think of, demanding gender equity. But this was overreach. I mean, Title IX is an education law. It's an opportunities in education law. Revenue sharing is only created by football. Only football. Men's basketball needs to pipe down a little bit. Men's basketball is not the reason revenue sharing is happening. If men's basketball is the major sport, there will be zero revenue sharing. Nothing but football is creating this. And so if the revenue sharing is only happening because of football, then why wouldn't football get the most out of this? And I think you're right. I think this is the sort of thing that leads, because you do need something that right now football players have everything going their way, right? They have all the control. They can leave when they want. They can make as much money as they want. There's no contracts. There is no need for them to really unionize. But when you start putting parameters on what they're able to make that are unfair, this is how you wind up with collective bargaining. And I think that's healthy. I think how we get to where we eventually have to be with college sports and everything is going to take collective bargaining, and it's going to take athletes as employees to some degree. And this ruling, now we'll see what happens with the Department of Education in the next weeks and months and all that, and what Title IX looks like. And Title IX is an incredibly important law. It was overreach here, I believe, with NIL and the revenue sharing.
Alex James next. They need to rip the roof off Ford Field. It provides no home field advantage. A young hotshot quarterback is going to look very average in frigid, breezy 20-degree weather when he can't feel his toes. Part of the all-grit offseason will be popping that roof off. Bet the house on it and bake take. Magic Johnson has been a robot since 1991. He is programmed to smile, clap, and create insufferably generic tweets consisting of the common sense and related facts.
If he was a robot, I would have gotten in there and programmed him to give enough money to fully fund the Lansing Promise. So he can't be a robot because that would have happened.
So he got the cure for AIDS, right? HIV, and then all of a sudden he became a robot. Yeah. That's what I like that conspiracy. I could get on that. I need some pure options later, but we could talk later. Definitely no roof, dude. Honestly, I wouldn't go to games if it were if there was no roof on Ford Field. No,
it's not going to.
In this cold, I'm sorry, I can't. Call me whatever fan you want. There's no way.
And the Lions have never had a roof. Like, Lions fans are built or have always had a roof going back to the mid '70s. Like, since the Silverdome, like, we're programmed to be okay with the roof. I'm not saying other places they aren't programmed.
And it kind of annoys me when you see two good teams like the Ravens, Bills, like playing in certain weather, where you kind of just want
it changes the game.
Yeah, right. And you're like, you play the whole season, right? 17 games, and now all of a sudden you're in shit weather. I don't know.
I'm definitely conflicted. Like, I enjoy watching it on that kind of weather. 1,000%. I love the idea of home field advantage. But you're right. It's like, boy, everything you plan for, everything you built on your roster, if it doesn't work, if all of a
sudden
you're
playing in -10, passing a ball around that no one can hold on to.
But that's where home field does matter, and you build a team around your own home field. Like, if the Lions did play outdoors, you build a different type of team. And maybe if they played outdoors, they would have run the ball a few more times, and that would have been good.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be good for Jared Goff, though, playing outdoors.
Yeah, we get it. Matt C., number one, the hard part about Jared Goff is you never know when he's going to have his Jameis Winston 5 turnover game. I still want to give him another year or two to get this done, but, man, it's going to be tough to win with him in a single elimination format, knowing he has that in him. 2, let me set the record straight. No true MSU fan should read anything from the Detroit media, especially not the Michigan fanboy, Connor, they hired. We'll never accept your friend, Graham. I love Matsy. Bonus. The fact that MSU basketball can make only three three-pointers, still score 80 and beat a quality team like Illinois is amazing. Their perimeter defense is the best I've seen since 2009 and Travis Walton.
Yeah, I mean, not the Detroit media. I understand the frustration with the Detroit media, but Connor's a
we have to put
dude.
Jared Goff into the Jameis Winston territory.
No,
I know Jared Goff had the 5 turnovers, but again, we won that game. I understand he played terrible against Washington. We did win 15 games. To put him in, you know what I mean? Like to mention him in the same sense.
Yeah, no. And
Jameis
Winston rarely has those games where he goes 18 for 18 either, and that's what Jared Goff can do. Like,
but he's entertaining.
He is entertaining. The problem with this game is it does raise some doubt about Goff, and only Goff can erase that doubt, and he's going to have to do that next year. And that's the thing that sucks when you talk about you got to wait 9 months. Like Jared Goff is going to have to sort of prove to people that they can trust him in big games. He's going to have to get to big games again, and that's the reality when you make as much money as he does, when you're the quarterback on a team with Super Bowl aspirations, and when you've been, frankly, as good as he's been at times, but inconsistent in big moments, and that's just what it is, and it sucks. But I still think, again, I'd rather be the Lions with Goff than any other franchise for the next 2 years other than the Kansas City Chiefs.
Kevin from Rochester Hills, number 1, the Lions will not make the playoffs next year. 2, the 0-16 Lions would have put up a better fight against Washington. And 3, Bridgewater had a better game than Goff.
Pure options.
Thanks, Kevin.
It'll work, yeah.
Appreciate
well
that.
done, Kevin. Yeah.
Dang it, Bobby. Number 1, the Lions were cooked when they lost half of their starters on defense. The Buffalo game revealed their capabilities against the best. And 2, Gamble and Holmes will provide many more Super Bowl opportunities. And 3, this MSU team will win the Big Ten and sweep Michigan.
Yeah, the matchup of Michigan will be interesting because Michigan has some defensive deficiencies here and there that I'm curious to see. But I don't know. Those will be great games, and I love the fact that 2 of Michigan State's sort of rivals in basketball over the last 2 decades or more, Illinois, who's been several times one of their chief rivals, and then when Michigan emerged, it was Michigan again, and Michigan in the late 2010s. Like, that's the top of the league, along with Purdue, and Purdue they only play once, but like these are going to be really fun matchups and a really fun season, and I don't know, it's a cool situation, and obviously, if they can sweep one of these, if they get Illinois or Michigan on the road, their path to a Big Ten title is pretty clear.
Chris next. My apologies, Jason, but the Lions will not make a Super Bowl. And while that's due in large part to Goff's deficiencies, it will also be because they share a conference with Jaden Daniels. Last game was like watching LeBron's 48 special against the Pistons, where a great start starts to realize how great he can be.
What's your, okay, and this is outside of Chris's take here that Jaden Daniels blocks the Lions, and Jaden Daniels may be phenomenal.
But we talk about Goff's deficiencies after that game. But again, we went 15-2. Were we talking about these deficiencies when?
Right.
Throughout the season?
For the next 2 years, I would still rather be the Lions roster with Goff than the Commanders roster with Daniels.
Sure.
But let's talk about Daniels a little bit based on what you've seen from him. In terms of who, if you had to start a team, say next 5 years with a quarterback right now, where would you put him? Like, who's ahead of him? Is it just Mahomes, Allen, Lamar? Is Daniels?
Boy, he could be ahead of those because he's younger, right? I mean, who do you want?
Yeah.
You just said, like, who do you want to start a team with? I mean, out of those guys you mentioned.
Well, let's say it's 5 years. All those guys are playing at least another 5 years at a high level.
Right.
So, the next 5 years, would he be fourth then? Who am I missing? I'm missing somebody else at that. I mean, maybe Burrow.
Oh, Burrow, definitely.
Yeah, so
Burrow's a stud.
So
I think I'd rather have Burrow than Daniels.
Okay, so fifth, maybe.
Yeah.
That's
absolutely,
pretty,
yeah. He's definitely. I mean, come on. If you look at the quarterback talent across the league, I mean, yeah, he's going to be obviously, skyrocketed up to the top 10, top 5, all that stuff. But no, I mean, the future's bright with Washington. He was great, especially in an environment to come in there and play flawlessly. I don't care who you are. That was unbelievable to come in there and do that. It sucked, but again, you have to give those guys credit.
So I am not a Bears fan, but I want Caleb Williams to work out because I would feel awful for Bears fans if
Dude, fuck the Bears.
Yeah, but
Who cares?
if after passing on Mahomes, you then got the wrong quarterback at the top of the draft again, like that would be the worst.
It's ownership.
No, but I
it's
think
ownership. The general manager is a penis. He brought back Eberflus with a rookie quarterback. Like no one in the league ever does that.
But a lot of people, almost everybody, I think, would have taken Williams over Daniels last year, and probably the Commanders.
Sure.
And so, I still think he has a really high ceiling, even if he didn't have a great rookie year.
But was that media hype is to tell you that Caleb Williams is better than Jaden Daniels? I mean, right? I mean, I don't know that. I mean, I definitely Caleb Williams was more fun to watch at times than Jaden Daniels, but he's a great quarterback, and he was older, right, when he did come into the league. So I don't know. I don't want Williams to work out for the Bears. F the Bears. Spartan 18770. The addition of the 4 Pac-12 teams has been and will continue to be a drag on the Big Ten. All 4 teams have done nothing to improve the conference, and the travel issue will cause friction, not just in the coaching circles, but the performance and marketability of the athletes.
There's a big take.
Oh, shit, sorry, big take. The NFL salary cap has created a mediocre and substandard product. It penalizes good organizations who can identify and develop talent but can't afford to keep them, while bad teams can buy great talent and have them wasted on inferior organization.
It does create parity, but it's. I think my biggest issue with the NFL salary cap, and this would be with the NBA and any salary cap, is I believe homegrown talent ought to be able to be retained without infringing on the cap. Like it should be a like for example, if you draft and develop a quarterback, say, and it's going to cost you $60 million then to sign that quarterback, and that's going to limit what you can do with the rest of your roster. Because of that, when they go from making $15 million on a rookie contract or whatever, there should be like a max. Like it should be like against the cap that only costs you $25 million. Yeah, you're paying him $60, but against your cap, that's a homegrown player. It's a homegrown cap, and so the Lions shouldn't eventually have to look at Jahmyr Gibbs when he's in his prime still and say, it's a running back. You don't pay running backs if you do that suck. Like,
but isn't that a part of what makes the NFL great? Like kind of
the parity. Yeah, no, I get it. But
parity. Although the AFC Championship game's been the same for how many years? I mean,
just the homegrownness of it. I wish there was a little bit more flexibility there, or even.
But isn't that like the NBA with like the bird rights, right? Like you get a guy. Isn't that what that thing is?
When the NBA has changed so much, because the NBA with the new second apron, like you can't.
Yeah, the NBA used to be fun to watch.
Well, and now you can't get it wrong with your first 2 guys. Like you can pay 2 guys, that's it, at the top level. So like when you look at the Pistons now, and they paid Cade, and that seems to be worth it. But like Jaden Ivey, you're gonna have to make decisions. They either have to be good enough to be a number 2 on a championship team, or you cannot pay them. I mean it's a really weird situation going on in the NBA. Their salaries haven't adjusted yet, but they will.
Skylar Verdon, hot take: Illinois fans are a bunch of whiny bitches. That was ticky-tack calls both ways, and guess what? The game ended with 20 fouls for each team. The difference is MSU didn't have 1 star player it couldn't afford to lose. Not sure about that tech, but that is what it is.
I was definitely – I mean, it's been a while since MSU's faced a basketball fan base that was as upset as I've seen, and they were again, the Big Ten is largely a football-first league, and there are places where in Illinois – has a team this year that has a chance to do big things, and they care about basketball. They were out in force. It was remarkable. I would say there are very few games these days that I even notice the opposing fan base on my Twitter feed. Right? Like because I don't interact with them a ton. Other people I interact with aren't interacting with them a ton. They were out in force with these sort of claims that their team was better and all this stuff. And here's what's weird is, you lose the game, maybe you are better, but you got a chance to prove it in February 15th. Michigan State plays there. Just pipe down till then. If it's the way it is,
yeah. But what fun is that?
Fair enough. Okay,
we got to talk shit now.
Yeah.
Thomas, MSU's defense will be the reason why they do nothing of note this season for men's hoops. The guys have seemed locked in lately. Bonus: don't mind them in football, but Illinois and Purdue are easily the most hateable basketball teams for me, other than Michigan.
Yeah, it's the fan bases, because that's what they're deeply intense, passionate, and passionate fan bases, and not telling people to look in the mirror though, but they're rarely rational, right? And
is it because Underwood has kind of like a hateable
he's got a stupid looking face?
No, is that part of like the Underwood thing? It's kind of like the Gene Cady look,
Yeah, Illinois basketball fans are I mean, this is their thing. This is what they have. It is a basketball-first school, and when they have a team that they think anytime you have a team that you think has the goods, like think about Michigan State in like 2018 or 2014, and walking into places, and if they had if the calls had gone against them, or a key player, if Denzel Valentine had gotten in foul trouble, or whatever it is, like people would react much the same way. So just remember that.
C-Dubs 91 hot. The Izzone sucks. Your players shouldn't have to be waving their arms to pump you up several times in a key Big Ten matchup like that. Baked. I really want to hate Lats after Saturday, but it's hard to hate someone going through so much and who is so lovable.
Lovable Lats.
Go out there, play hard, stick your cleats so far up their asses that they've got to use the cleats to brush their teeth with.
How could you hate that?
No, it's
telling the truth.
It's impossible.
Right?
Impossible.
Love Lats. Some dude, number one. Mike Woodson's beard just makes him look like a giant hairy butthole with teeth. Where did that come from? Oh, my God. 2, Underwood looks like he has an old man smell of tobacco and hair gel. And 3, some shade being tossed at the Izzone lately. Not for being too white, but for the lack of noise. When I'm at games, I'm in the second deck, and I felt the noise was down. After hearing Izzo comment on it yesterday and hearing the game on TV, it seems to me that the Izzone is fine. But the Breslin Center is only really truly loud when everyone makes the noise, which I don't think is happening.
It's not what so as somebody who saw the initial, like the first year of the Izzone, I was still in Lansing, and that crowd, and then has covered it, and my memory of it is more based on what I've covered since 2012. It definitely isn't what it was at its peak. There were games, and there have been moments this year. I'm not saying there isn't capable of getting there, and I'm not saying it's a bad student section. But there were games in 2012, 13, 14 where I remember thinking, God, I don't know how the opposing team thinks while they're out there. I don't know how they're going to score based on who they're playing, and I don't know how that is intimidating. And it's often intimidating. But it's still a good student section. It's just are young people across the board different? Well, so yeah, are people distracted? Are they on phones? In Michigan State fans, if you're a student at MSU too, you have not had you've never rooted for a championship team. You haven't been around as much winning, so it's a different type of deal too, which may make is this gets closer to a Big Ten championship. This may get to be a great student section, and I would be curious if like the Orange Crush at Illinois, if people there feel the same way about the Orange Crust 10 years ago versus now, and whether that's just kids or whether that's something that's Izzone specific. I don't. I mean, are the Cameron Crazies still the same? That's a good question. They still do the same? I've watched a couple Duke games, but I haven't paid attention to them. Yeah. Max C. Graham, I would love to hear your thoughts regarding Solari's take. The Izzone should be just as loud when MSU is on offense. I think you may need to talk him down on this one. Solari's taking a lot of shit on this, and look, I don't fully agree. I don't fully agree with this one, and but with his take or people giving him shit. Well, both. I mean, because I believe his take is a little bit off. It's not entirely off. Like his point is, it shouldn't be the same degree of volume. You don't want just the madness when somebody's on offense, but it is definitely quieter on offense than it used to be on offense. And sometimes that lends it to not being as loud on defense. Like you're not going to fluctuate entirely. It's not like you're waiting for somebody to putt when they're on offense, right? Or take a swing, a serve in tennis. It is sometimes quieter than it should be. So he's not wrong on that. My issue is the way people go at Solari. It was some real venom that don't understand that he's a good dude. And yeah, does he poke the bear in ways that he probably shouldn't from time to time? Yeah, but there are some real assholes going after him on Twitter at times, and that annoys me. And I'm if Solari does something that deserves people being a jerk to him, I'll tell him, or it'll be warned. But I'll have his back on this. And if people are unnecessarily vicious, then I'm always going to have his back on that stuff. That's ridiculous. Big John Hogg next. Number 1, given the schedule next year, the Lions will be lucky with a wild card spot. 2, this MSU team could go far. Winning ugly like they did today is important. And 3, I'd rather listen to a Chad Latz pump-up speech than watch another Dan Campbell presser that ends in tears. It's a soft look. I thought it was genuine. I don't want him to take the blame anymore. It's my fault. It's my fault. Like,
he's not crying like that. He's talking about his guys and how they fought all season.
I know.
Playing through injuries. Like, it's not a soft look. You tell him that.
I'm not.
You tell no. I'm saying Big John Hogg. You tell Dan Campbell that's soft.
Oh, I was going to say, yeah. But
right? Like, I'm just saying, like, I don't know.
You know what Dan Campbell needs? A muskox flannel. He looks like a man who would be a muskox man, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Like, he should be there. As much as I want to be the muskox, model, poster boy.
Well, you should, because most people look like you.
Right.
So that should be like,
changes
hey,
the way I look.
Yeah.
To
you look
such a degree.
presentable.
Yes. Right.
Whereas Dan Campbell could just wear a cutoff tee and look awesome.
Yeah, that's true.
But flannel is going to make.
I would tell muskox if they could get Dan Campbell, do that first.
Oh God.
And if not, I'm here for you because you're right. You can.
I would almost say you're better than Dan Campbell as a spokesman, because I would see that. But you know what? Graham actually does look good. He looks presentable. I'm going to buy one.
Yeah,
but I would buy one with Dan Campbell wearing one too.
It's the contrast, right?
But I think you give people hope with it.
That's a good line. Muskox flannels, they give you hope.
Yeah.
Like if you ever wake up in the morning and look at yourself and go, woof, that's the day to buy a muskox flannel.
I've done that many times.
Yeah.
Go
to gomuskox.com. Use the promo code FIXITINPOST, and you can fix your look. $15 off. Gomuskox.com. Some great options. Jason and I have new flannels on the way that I'm excited about. And, it should be, I'm telling you, gomuskox.com, fix your look, fix it in post for $15 off.
Sports Guy 1919, the moment I knew the Lions were toast was when J-Mo didn't throw that pass at first and then threw it a second later. When that left his hand, I knew it would be into double coverage. You let a guy who can't make a good decision to save his life throw a pass when you need points. Yeah, it was before the half, too. The interception before the half from Goff was just an absolute killer when we needed, especially with Washington getting the ball in the second half.
Needed points, yeah. Yeah, this Lions defense was the first time I remember watching games late in the year, thinking, like, usually I don't care all that much about, getting the ball in the second half and deferring. This was the first time, every time the other team had the ball first, I was like, oh, that ain't good. That's going to be it's like the first time I really thought deferring really matters for this. If you're the Lions.
See, I wanted the ball first because I had confidence in her. I mean, obviously I didn't think Goff was going to play that horribly, so I thought setting the tone, we're up 7-3 first quarter. I don't know.
I want with this Lions defense, one less opponent possession in the second half is always the best thing I can think of.
Can we draft a linebacker? Can we get a badass linebacker, though? I'm just saying. G.E. Miller, number 1, Aaron Glenn will be back after that mess. Created zero disruption and had no answers all game. I know they are underhanded, but man, that was bad. One good scheme against awful Darnold does not equal head coach. 2, Jared Goff ain't the one. Completely outshined by a rookie playing on the road with lesser talent. You just can't shit the bed like that in a big game, including 3 big mistakes before a possible concussion. Good quarterback, but he's not going to win you a title.
To the Aaron Glenn thing, here's my problem is if you're interviewing these people, you should, what they did in one game, I mean, obviously big games matter for coaches and stuff like that, but who they are.
What he did all season, though. It wasn't just Minnesota game. Again, we went 15-2 with an injuries galore.
Who they are doesn't change. And the other thing is, if you're hiring a head coach, I care a lot less about their ability to be sophisticated with a defense. You want a good defense, but chances are they're going to hire a defensive coordinator. If I'm hiring Aaron Glenn, I want Aaron Glenn because he may have defensive principles and he may hire a good coordinator, but he's going to set a tone and create a culture that you want. Like that's the thing we have seen with Dan Campbell and the Lions and trying to change that around that's been so important and so impressive. Like Ben Johnson, I used to think Ben Johnson leaving was a disaster because, have him be the head coach. Dan Campbell, you trust they'll get somebody else in place who can do it. You need him at the helm, and you've just seen the value of that over time.
Singus, X2 next. Number 1, the Lions allowing 45 points, but fans want to talk about Goff as peak Lions fan. 2, Xavier Booker is basically a reserve, now with fading upside. And 3, Brad Underwood is the Biff Tannen of the Big Ten coaches.
Yeah, I mean...
but Goff was the reason why of 17 of those 45 points, pretty much.
Yeah, at least he was 6-7 directly. Yeah, I mean, no, Goff deserves some of the blame here. Yeah. I don't think Booker's upside is fading. Now, is it what I once thought it was? Is quickly? No, not at all. Because I think the tell of this is this: Xavier Booker's impact is greatest when the opponent is best, and that's how you know his talent is there. In other words, he was really good against North Carolina, right? he starts the second half against Illinois because he's playing so well. And he was playing well on a stretch. And so, like that, to me, where he makes an impact with his length and just a difference maker is when you have talent that causes you a problem. And I think that's telling still of his upside.
David Zandy next. Number one, tough loss Saturday night, and unfortunately have my weekends back too early. Since Dan and Brad are still here, I'm looking forward to next season and think a good defensive coordinator selection could be what takes us to the next level. 2, MSU's win saved my weekend and helped me get to turn the page and move forward with the Lions.
A lot of people have more time, yeah. I mean, a Super Bowl, I think most people still watch the Super Bowl. I don't know about that championship game, but the Super Bowl, right? Yeah, everybody watches the Super Bowl still. What else are you going to do? It's nothing else is on.
I could understand with some of these reactions to not watching football anymore. Some people are just Lions fan. That's it. I can understand that part. Hopeless fanatic next. To what extent did the coaching interviews affect the outcome of that game? Did the pick six or the Robertson injury take more life out of the team? Why can't we have nice things?
The Robertson injury, as you said, I think was understated. I think that really did affect him.
After the second one, and Vildor, I know he made a play, but it's just like, oh my God, what else can happen? BPA, are we allowed to rip Lions coaches now? Rube has allowed no criticism all season.
The gatekeeper of criticism.
We went 15-2. What the 3rd and 1 pass with empty backfield with an immobile quarterback while averaging 8.3 yards per carry with running backs flipped the entire game. Almost had a rookie quarterback down 14-3 on the road. Criminal negligence.
It was bad, and they should have been. It should have been 14-3, and it looked like they were just going to run them out of the building. And if the Lions are on the front foot, they win that game easily, I think, because they don't press, and it's just
I can't disagree. Richard Kane, now that Roger Goodell has said the next logical step for the NFL is 18 games, why stop there? Let's go to 31 games with a couple more bye weeks, so each team can play every other team once for a true round-robin schedule. They could end the season with the Super Bowl on Memorial Day Sunday. 2, Cohen Carr, with some of his unorthodox, twisting, balance-defying finishing moves, reminds me of St. John's great 1986 Player of the Year Walter Berry, who was also left-handed, incidentally.
Richard Kane is not under 30 years old.
No way. No way.
Giveaway there.
He's older than me.
That was the
Walter
year of
Berry. Damn.
Len Bias was with the 86 first back then. Anyway,
Jumping Johnny Green.
Yeah. 18 games is, I understand that the NFL is eventually going to get to 18 games. I think you should move President's Day instead of trying to meet President's Day if you're the NFL. But 18 games just seems like a lot. To me, if you get to 18 games, they are going to have to expand rosters. And you are going to see, maybe not what I always say, with my dumbass take about, don't play somebody for 12 games, and rest them. But you will.
Bumpity bump.
But I do think you'll see some sort of load management types. If you get to 18 games and you're trying to get your key guys to the playoffs, if you do an extra bye week, I don't know, but an extra bye, then you start the season early. Do you start on Labor Day and go to President's Day and have an extra bye in there? That's just a lot of games of that sort of level of collision.
John Blaze next. I want to know if you've spoken to the staff and players about Sadi's impact on the team as a whole. I've seen improvement in players in such a short amount of time, so I wonder if he is a part of that.
I haven't, but it's a good question to have, because it does. I talked to Xavier Booker in Maui about it because Booker came out and just said that, right? He said Sadi Washington, he was a big part of why that performance happened and the way they had met the day before and all the things Sadi Washington was pointing to him at times where he had not attacked and been as aggressive and as he could have been and not posted up, I think was the big thing they were going over. So, but I think he's had an impact on the team. But that is a story to get to.
Mr. Neurotic Pants, number one, the people want to once again hear the story of Graham pushing someone down the stairs. #hate crime. 2, Izzo had those refs cowed. MSU had some delicious home cooking. And 3, really long win streaks are stressful.
There's stress in winning and expectations, but it's better than the alternative. Let me say that. And the story, there's no hate crime. We're not going to start the #hate crime, with me. That's not going to be.
Have time for the story.
That is not. Yes, thank you. That is not a story we're telling. Presented by Midtown Brewing Company. That is not one we want. We don't want. In fact, the hashtag hate crime should not be associated with any of our sponsors or me. Let's leave that out.
Oh, shit. It's hilarious. Suburban man of leisure. Grateful I've never been more than a casual Lions fan. I think my fandom peaked when Dexter Bussey was their leading running back. Of course, if they do ever win, I'll act like I've been their biggest fan. Dexter Bussey.
Yeah, well, you are lucky then. I mean, I feel the same way, that I'm not hurting the way some others are.
Dude, it sucked.
But I'll say the downside of that.
There.
Downside of that is you and I mean, you can act like you're their biggest fan, but you don't get the joy. Like, I won't get the joy if the Lions win a Super Bowl that I would have when I was 16, and that sucks too. Like, know that. Like, so you may think, he's a snarky ass and he, doesn't care, but like I miss out on that too. I miss out on what you'll feel when they do win a title. I'll still feel it to some degree, but not like I did, not like you will.
All right, Max next. The Lions versus MSU basketball. One is winning because of their depth. The other had their depth catch up with them. MSU is able to weather the storm because of their depth. Illinois probably has a better starting five, but MSU wore them down. Varying lineups were too much. The Washington offense was too much for an injury-riddled Lion defense, forcing the offense to play error-free football, which they obviously didn't do.
Yeah, right. They didn't need to be as they could have been more conservative than they were, and they would have been fine. They just need to run the ball with Gibbs, and they didn't do it.
Fart soup. Number one, I stand with Couch Saturday night. This team was fooling everyone with that defense. Yeah, Goff was terrible, but that D wasn't stopping anyone. Sam Darnold is ass, and that game fooled everyone into thinking the divisional round was as good as done. Never overlook the game at hand.
I don't think anybody overlooked it. I don't.
No.
I don't think they did.
I said the same thing. Yes, we were looking at NFC Championship possibility for tickets and that shit, but I said, hey, when we win this game, right? But you have to look ahead for tickets and all that shit. So I did not take, I just, whatever. Sucks. Dark Antonio. My wife's cousin had a birthday get-together, and the Lions game was on. Was the first pro game of any sport that I've watched in about 7 years. Sorry, Lions fans, it's my fault. So I promise to gladly continue not watching. Great.
Appreciate your service.
Yeah, fantastic. 2, Mike Saintsville has now got to be the most hated ex-Wolverine for all the concurrent MSU Lions fans. Side note, I didn't even know he played for Washington. Once they leave college, I pay no attention to him. We get it. You don't watch fucking pro sports.
But hold on. But was it that was where they were with when he had those interceptions? Was it 2 interceptions? Were it both his or one? Like the announcer was like, making the Michigan fans proud. Like, the Michigan fans are Lions fans, for the most part. These people were pissed off at him. Like, nobody wanted.
Yeah.
I
could agree with that. Shep, each year, as soon as schedules are announced for MSU football and hoops, March Madness, big tournament, and NFL playoffs are announced, I immediately add to my calendar and schedule around things that I want to ensure I can watch. I'm 47 years old with a great and active family, lots of hobbies, and a successful career that involves lots of international travel. Yet somehow I've been able to make this work for decades. How are people so bad at this? Bonus take. Also, I obviously didn't schedule my wedding during the football season, March Madness, etc., so not to screw any of my friends or family.
Well, some of us don't get to make quite as many of our own decisions in our families. It happens. So you go with what your spouse
I respect
wants.
You, Shep.
Yeah, but you're right.
That.
I mean, logistically, drives me nuts. And sometimes some people don't see it. Like I can tell when somebody's planning an event 6 months out, and I'll go, I can see what that's going to interact with. They don't see it. Like, some people just don't forward think and don't see those problems. It's a gift you have. Be grateful. Your wife should be grateful you have it. Hopefully you have it for the rest of your life. We miss Captain Sparty if we have time there. Oh, no, maybe we didn't.
The Lions players and coaches were too cocky. All year, people telling them how good they are. Every touchdown they doing dumbass celebrations. J-Mo celebrating on the 15, then humping the ground when we are losing. This team thought it was going to be easy and not prepared. Fire everyone. Yeah, I'm glad we got to that shit.
Sorry.
Fucking fan. Great. Run out of time here. Go up and read that bullshit. What the? David Jackson, NFL. Shemfel. What? Shemfel?
NFL Shemfel. Yeah.
Just end the show. The important weekend events were MSU hockey jail sexy Michigan on Saturday night, turning Michigan into a Charlestown Chiefs at the end of the game, and the Spartan basketball team beating a terrific team with multiple pros in the first of 4 games versus Illinois.
Yeah, MSU hockey. Like, if you're not a Lions fan and you're an MSU fan, it was a really good weekend. I mean, you had gymnastics and tennis and hockey and basketball having huge wins.
Should I skip here? I mean, we got to get out of here.
Right? We're very close to the end. I think
Thomas, number one, MSU hockey was impressive over the weekend while still dealing with injuries. Last game was very chippy and should set up a great final 2 with Michigan in a few weeks. 2, 3 U.S. women and 2 U.S. men alive in the final 8 of the Aussie Open. Semi-baked take. One finds a way to get an improbable title.
It won't be on the men's side. It might be on the women's side.
Mark, Tottenham is going to get relegated, and since their fandom is not contrived, this will be just as devastating to Michigan-based Tottenham fans as the Lions' loss. 2, Everton is back, baby, thanks to the Moyle, whatever that is.
Yeah, it would be amazing. Tottenham is not going to get relegated, but they're very close to the bottom, and my dreams for that are they're not alive, but it is as close as they may ever get.
Hans Jurgen, number 1, I'm sorry, Jason. 2, I'm sorry, Jason. 3, I'm sorry, Jason. Bonus, Bobby Lane really knew how to curse. Double bonus, big guards keep killing MSU. Why can't we have some big guards? We haven't had one since Magic. And my first quadruple bonus, I'm sorry, Jason.
Appreciate you, Hans.
Thanks, Hans. Jake Hawkins, number 1, I was there at Ford Field for the game. Glad my mom talked me into it, but extremely upset about the outcome. Still in utter disbelief about it. 2 possible future outcomes for the Lions. They'll capture a Super Bowl in their window or always coming up short in the playoffs. 2, the officiating Saturday night was so bad and pure stinking horse's ass that I wish someone would do what Adam Sandler did in The Longest Yard. Throw a football at a ref's nuts. Tell him to call a fair game, then give him a wet willy. Inexcusable. The NFL has officiating issues. And 3, Jason, too bad we couldn't meet up at the game like we talked about over text. On the flip side, a great gutsy win for MSU and a solid Illinois team. Watched the second half and got to say, the Izzone didn't look that impressive or intimidating on TV.
Nobody combines 2 takes of different subjects like the Hawk. Jake, you are.
I'm really bummed I didn't get to meet up with the Hawk.
It's a masterclass. It's a masterclass.
W. So sorry, Hawk. Upper Deck Jerk Guy. Finally, number 1, the Lions' window is still wide open. Need to shore up the D and offensive line. 2, lawyers hope you get sued. Doctors hope you get sick. Cops hope you're a criminal. And mechanics hope you have car trouble. Only thieves want to see you succeed.
Wisdom from the Upper Deck Jerk Guy, the best way to close any show. We very much appreciate him. We very much appreciate all of you. Thanks for producing our show. Thanks for staying with us, even when you suffer through Lions games, even when I'm a snarky ass on Twitter. We hope Pure Options helps you with that. We appreciate Pure Options. We appreciate Midtown Brewing Company. Great place, too, for a cozy comfort food, for a great meal, for a date night. Just a terrific menu. Midtown Brewing Company in downtown Lansing. We appreciate Muskox and Muskox flannels. In this weather, if you have not discovered Muskox, I'm telling you, you will be grateful if you do. Go to gomuskox.com. Use the promo code FIXITINPOST for $15 off your flannel purchase. We'll be back later in the week. We'll figure out the time. Good show, man.
Yeah, man.
Couch in the Roof.